editing here and we'll get cracking. We are live. We got the mic on. We get live on to the Instagram in a minute. Actually, let me just go ahead and do that now. All right. We got live there. All right. Go ahead and do some editing here. We can open a new window. Give me a second, we'll get going. All right, we'll give everybody a couple minutes to come in. Let me just do some quick editing. All right. All right. Almost there. Just get back a couple more minutes to come in. Just do with my usual editing. We're going to get cracking. All right. June 1st. All right, I think we're good. So that saves that. All right. Fertile blessings to all. All right, Goddess Isis, what's going on? Peace to Kunama Days. Hopefully I butchered that. Spurl and Lily, what's going on, brother? Hope all is well with you. Hope if you're out there on the road, travel safe. Brother Shango Ray and anybody else that I missed. Hold on one sec. All right. Let me run through some quick announcements first. Let me just save this here. Send this to me so I don't lose it. All right, here we go. All right. While I'm still waiting for some more people to come in, I'm going to go ahead and run through new month. So we got some the new classes, the new events up before we get into our topic for this evening. But hold on one second. I got to send a quick text real quick. And then we'll get crack-a-lacking, as they say, right? All right. Feeling good tonight. Feeling good. It's new month, June. Birthday's in 9 days. Got a friend of mine coming to visit. I haven't seen in a minute. So looking forward to doing the birthday thing next week on the 10th weekend. Stanley Cup. I'll be going to the Stanley Cup on the 8th and then on my birthday, the 10th. Excited about that. Anyway, that's for another time, another story. All right, so new month. Today's June 1st. I want to go through the new classes for the month of June and the ritual for the month of June. But before I do that, we are live right here. If you're with us here on Primordial Chaos on YouTube, we're streaming live on 3 platforms. We are also live on Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram. And we are also live on Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook. So you can catch this live stream on all 3. So wherever you're watching, infernal blessings to all. Don't forget to hit the like buttons. Get those likes out there. As you know, that expands the algorithm of the channel. And as you know, the topics I do aren't exactly mainstream. So needs that help to get out there and expand. You know how they control the algorithms if you're not talking about stuff they like. You know they definitely mess with your algorithms. It's all good, but this information is supposed to reach the people it's supposed to reach, right? That's how that works. But hit the likes, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell and hit all notifications. If you just subscribe and you don't hit all notifications, it's what I keep telling people, you won't always get a notification when a video goes live, okay? And that's for everybody's YouTube channel, not just mine. Whatever subscriptions you have to anybody's channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit all notifications. You could do personalized. It just depends on what you're looking for. But if you want to know when I go live, when I upload a new video, I would recommend hitting all notifications, all right? Having got that out of the way, let's run through this month's classes and announcements real quick while we still wait for a little more people to start filing in. Let me pull up the Zoom calendar. This way I keep things organized and give you the correct dates and time. I made a change a few hours ago. We're moving up Saturday's class to tomorrow night due to the fact my little guy got invited to a tournament last minute that I had to commit to. So anyway, that's neither here or there. So we get right out the gate starting tomorrow night. If you're on Patreon, again, the best way to participate in the classes, highly encouraged to join the Patreon page. If you go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, that's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's the ticker with all that information going right on the bottom there. Join Tier 3. Tier 3 for $25 a month gives you access to the 3 private classes I do a month there, and it gives you access to the group monthly ritual we do every month, okay? That's the best way. You can sign up individually for the classes. They're $56 a piece, which makes no sense. If you stay a $25 a month member, you get access to all the classes every month. And in addition, you get access to the archive. And now Patreon's been up a few years, so there's quite a bit of information on there. So you get access to the archived information, the current information, and the stuff moving forward. But either way, the information on how to do that is in the ticker there in the bottom. I have it here in the community section on YouTube. Information how to sign up for all the classes is also on Instagram, Primordial Chaos 9, and Primordial Chaos on Facebook. Okay, so you have that ability to do either or, but again, recommended that you join patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3, there are other tiers on there. There's mentorship tiers, the Red Magus mentorship program, which right now it's pretty full. I would only take a certain kind of student right now as long as they're able to commit. Some people have reached out. I just have to make sure it's time-wise, it's the right fit for you, me, and then in addition to those that have been in for a while. But there's several tiers on there you can check out. But if you do any of the mentorship programs, please make sure it's an investment. And I'm not talking about money. It's not that it's a heavy money investment. It's a time investment. Make sure you have the time, the energy, and you're going to put in the work. Because again, I don't want to waste your time, and definitely don't want you to waste my time. As you get older in life, time is one of the most precious gifts. And I say that in the sense of you really realize how much you need to utilize your time and how much you can get done. So I'm real big on, as I get older, I don't like to waste time. So I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I don't want nobody to waste my time. Okay. But that's the best way to be a part of the classes. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page. Also, we run through the classes for this month. Let me give you that schedule real quick. Haven't said that. So we get right at it tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, with the second Clipothic Sorcery and Magic class. For those that were at the ritual and participated in our first Clipothic working with Asmodeus, it was pretty intense. A lot of positive feedback on that. A lot of you guys got a lot out of that, and I'm glad. But we continue now with our Clipothic studies tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you're a Tier 3 member, you're already there. You're signed up. If not, you need to go to Patreon and get signed up. And then on Thursday, June 15th, and I see Brother Angel, Brother Louis in here. I'm going to have to get with you. Hopefully you can come in on that one on Thursday, June 15th, African Witchcraft and Sorcery class number 8. That'll be our 8th installment of that class. That's going to be Thursday, June 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The following Thursday, on Thursday, June 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Sith Dark Side Alchemy and Philosophy class number 7. And that's on Thursday, June 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on Friday, we close the month out. Friday on June 30th with our monthly ritual. You must be a Patreon member to participate on that. No exceptions, Tier 3 and above. It's the Beelzebub Lord of Flies ritual. This is going to be centered on creating our universe and shaping our destiny. That's all I'm going to say in regards to that. This will actually be, I believe, in the Patreon of the group, this will be our first Beelzebub ritual. I don't think we've ever done anything as a group with Beelzebub. So we got a lot of good stuff planned for this month. It kicks off tomorrow night. It's going to be the first class for the month of June. As you see, I will not be doing anything in that second weekend. That's the birthday weekend. My birthday is Saturday, June 10th. So I will enjoy that weekend. My older sister is the day before. As you guys know, I've said this in the past. Her birthday is on Friday, June 9th. So got my older sister on the 9th of June. Myself, I'll be 52 years old on the 10th of June. Feel like I'm 25, not 52. But yeah, so that weekend, and I got some friends flying in, so that's going to be a little breaky break for good old Baniti here. All right, so that's to be a part of it. Again, just go to the Patreon page, the Primordial Chaos Patreon page at patreon.com/Baniti. Everything I'm saying is right there on the bottom of the screen. And then last, if you are interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, real quick, there's a difference between the two. Got to make that. Always got to say that. People book I get this a lot. People will book a consultation and then they want to do a reading. Like they think it's the same thing. No, please, people, it's not. A consultation, let me clarify. A consultation is just that. It's like, for an example, if you go to a lawyer for a consultation, right? You're gonna consult with that lawyer about anything in the legal field, right? This is the best way. I'm gonna try to upstep this a notch and explain it because sometimes people still get it confused. I know a lot of you are aware of this, but maybe it's the newer folks. I want to be clear on the difference between a spiritual consultation and a spiritual reading. Very different. So look at it when you see like a consultation with a lawyer. You get with the lawyer and you talk about anything legally, any of your options, if you got a legal matter, etc. Well, look at a spiritual consultation the same way. You could talk about anything you want to discuss in reference to the occult, the left-hand path, spirituality, or maybe you have a certain situation you need help with. Maybe you're looking for guidance, how to navigate on your path. Maybe you're looking, how do I set up altars? What should I be doing? Any of these things would fall in alignment with the spiritual consultation, okay? A spiritual reading is using a system of divination to consult the spirits in a particular system for guidance, answers to questions, etc. Very different. So the type of readings, just a few, throw out there that I do offer are Clipothic demonic readings, Santa Muerte readings, shadow work readings, which is highly recommended and always a great place to start. One, if you're just beginning on the path, but not just for that. One, the most important, if you're looking currently for the direction you should be heading into. A lot of people say, what should I be doing right now in my life? What kind of ritual work should I be doing? What direction should I be going into? Well, a shadow work reading is going to focus on
what type of energy you got going on around you right now at this very current moment in your life. Understand too, I know there's a lot of bullshit artist people out there that will offer spiritual services and readings, but they don't really tell you when you're dealing with spiritual readings, you're feeding and reading off of the energy of that person. Now, understand this very clear. It's always what's going on in the moment. Yes, you could see things looking ahead. You could see things in the past. But remember, our energy is constantly fluctuating and changing at all times. So for an example, you could do a spiritual reading today, and it's going to be focused and centralized on everything you got going on currently right now in your life and everything that's going on around you, people, places, and things. And the spirits are going to address that. You might come back 6 months later and that thing changed completely. People don't get that. And this is why I keep trying to tell people, when you do a spiritual reading, come into it with the mindset, I need to hear what's important that I need to know. Stop coming into readings looking to hear how special you are. People come into readings thinking they're going to hear shit that's going to fluff their ego up. Oh, I was told I'm the daughter of Oshun and I got 14 karat gold pussy. No, stop. Okay, that's not how readings work. People come in and then they find out traumatic shit. Stuff comes up about them being sexually abused or some serious traumatic incident that took place in their life or something that they never thought in their wildest dreams would come to the surface. You must be prepared, because the type of energy that I work with is not, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to cut corners, and I'm not going to sugarcoat shit to tell you just to make you feel good. Whatever's there is there. You're going to get it raw, unfiltered, and have the mindset to be receptive, to embrace the information you need to know that's going to help you, not the shit that's going to give you a false sense and stroke your ego and build you up. And you walk around, I was told in a reading in a past life that I was an incarnation of Queen Nefertiti. I mean, stop. That's not what it's for, people. Okay? When you're consulting the spirits, it should be for personal guidance. It should be for you to connect and get information that's going to help you to help yourself. It's that simple. Stop. If you're coming in because you want to be special and I want to be told how to fuck with that. That's not how I operate. I don't operate like that. You might come into a reading and find out you're a really fucked up, disturbed individual. It's just the way it is. It don't mean we can't work on it. But you might come in wanting to hear that you're the child of Belial, and then you might find out you got some serious psychological shit you're not dealing with. And now your ego gets bruised. See, I'm not one of those bullshit readers that take your money and then just tell you shit you want to hear so you can walk around with a false sense of security. Oh, I was told I'm a reincarnation of Heru. You know how many fools I've run into with that stupidity? And the incarnation of Heru is working at Home Depot. And I'm not knocking anybody that works at Home Depot. I'm just trying to show you how there's a thin line between delusional bullshit and being grounded in reality. You get my point, okay? So any of those aforementioned readings, Egyptian oracle readings are off the chain right now. For whatever reason, they just exploded. I actually love doing them because I have a strong spiritual energy connection with the ancient Egyptian deities for years now, and it's one of my favorite type of readings to do. It just flows so smooth. Not that the other ones don't. It's like home when I'm doing one of those type of readings is the best way I can describe it. Those have become, in the last 4 months, for whatever reason, they're just taking off. But if you want a list of readings and consultations, just send me an email. All that information is on the ticker. I will send you a list of readings I offer with the prices, and you respond back with the days and times you're available and the time zone you're in. Keep telling people I deal with people, not just in the United States. I do work with people overseas, Europe, Africa, Middle East. So time zone is very critical to me planning, okay? And last but not least, as we approach and get close to the month of October, the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, we have already ideas, floating them around. Nothing is fully organized. We do have the venue. It'll be the same venue, Cultural Expressions in Hollywood, Florida. More information for that to come, but just be prepared last month in October. And we got some stuff planned for that. All right. That pretty much does it for the announcement. So let's get into what I want to talk about tonight. You see the title, Cyclomancy and the Powers of Your Mind. Yes, it's based off of the famous occult book by Frank Rudolph Young. So let's talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of people. Look, for years in different circles, I hear a lot of spooky stuff about cyclomancy. So one, I'm here to demystify that spookism. One, it's very easily accessible to get the information. You can get actually on Kindle. It's $8.99 for a full digital version of it. You can purchase it on Kindle. Hard copy is going to be a little hard. You had to have one from back in the day. Now, I do believe, I think it's A Books. There's a couple of sources, as usual, that are selling it for a ridiculous amount in its actual hard copy format. Because when anytime a book is rare and out of print, or there's a minimal amount of copies, of course, the sellers are going to jack the price up ridiculously. So again, you guys could do your further research. Maybe you can find it. There might be a seller out there, but I would tell you, if you are looking for a hard original copy, be prepared to spend some money. It's going to cost you some money. If you're okay with the digital version, there's two ways you can get it. So we'll get this out of the way. Kindle on Amazon has it for $8.99 in full digital format. And it's actually free on the Scribd or Scribd app, depending on how you pronounce it. I say Scribd. SCRIBD.com, an app I've had for quite a few years now that I recommend people should have, because you can preview and read tons of books on there. I always use it for years now as a source. I can fully look at a book digitally, and now I say to myself, that's a book I want hard copy. And then sometimes I say to myself, glad I read the free digital version, because I don't really want that book. So it's a great tool to cipher through books, but Cyclomancy is available there in its entirety for free also. All right. So before I get into it, I want to get into a brief background on the book and on the author. Some of you might be familiar with who he is. He passed away in 2002, but there's a short little excerpt here I took off the internet. It's a very short couple of lines, a brief biography. So let me run through that. Not only this is his most known or famous book, but he's put out a bunch of books on yoga, meditation, mind control, spirituality, thought magic. He would be considered what we would call today, I guess you could label him an occult spiritual author. All right. So again, some of his titles: Cyclomancy, the secret of psychic power control. Yoga for Men Only. That book's interesting if you read it. The Secret of Spirit, Thought Magic, which is really connects also to this Cyclomancy book. I would recommend people get that. That, I believe, is still available in hard copy. I thought I saw one on Amazon a few months back, but don't quote me on that. But that's kind of connects to the Cyclomancy book. He's got Secret Mental Powers, Miracle of the Mind Magic, Yoga Secrets for Extraordinary Health and Long Life, Somo Psychic Power, Using Its Miracle Forces for a Fabulous New Life. He's got a book called Psychastra ESP Control, which that's a very interesting book too. The Secrets of Personal Psychic Powers. You see kind of what he's on. The Laws of Mental Domination, which kind of connect to this, etc. Those are some of his well-known titles. A little bit about the author, who is deceased, who passed away in 2002. Let me pull it up here. All right, so Frank Rudolph Young wrote several books, some of the ones I just named, about mental training and yoga. Some lurid titles such as Secret Mental Powers, Miracle of Mind Magic, some of the ones I mentioned. He was a chiropractor and a bodybuilder, if you look up his biography, an athlete with a background in dentistry. Very interesting background. He developed a system of exercise he called Yoga Metrics, and that's in the he goes into that heavy in the Yoga for Men book, which served as a system of bodybuilding, health enhancement, and spinal alignment. I find that interesting because if you understand how the chakras work, and if you understand the importance of your spinal column in connection to your spirituality and your development, your meditation, and how the importance of the spinal cord and the spinal nerves and how that affects your spiritual growth. So there is connection with that there when you read some of his information. He talks about a system of exercise that was based on isometric tension, flexion, and an emphasis on decompressing the spine. He was also someone who saw the connection between mind, body, and spirit. All right. He was born in 1911 and he passed away in 2002. So I would check out some of Frank Rudolph Young's books. I mean, you can access different things about him on the internet. Just to kind of give you the connection on the book, the source, and kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. That's just a quick synopsis. There's more. But let's talk about this system that he developed called, or the book that he wrote called Cyclomancy, right? I've been telling you guys now for years, when we keep using this term magic, but it's kind of spooked out, unfortunately. Because when you hear the word magic, not so much maybe to us who are on this path, but more so to outsiders with the internet, with movies and entertainment and social media platforms, that's kind of become a little bit spooked out, and it's kind of been given some connotations that are kind of comical sometimes. Sometimes, gives it a negative connotation of something dark, dreary, and evil. And what we're doing when we're using terms like that, we're using adjectives just to describe varying degrees of energy. Because in essence, magic and spirituality are all those things, and all those things are magic, right? You can't define spiritual power by just those limited explanations or definitions, okay? All right. But I'm trying to tell you guys, as you grow and evolve on this path, yes, we work with the tangible things, right? On our spiritual path. There is an importance of altars, having icons on your altars, ritual tools, ritual attire, carrying out rituals, etc. I'm not negating that. All that holds a place. All that is a part of the practice of spiritual magic. But in essence, when you break it down, I've also said for a long time now, for many years, you've got to be able to work magic at any place, at any time, at any given moment. Based on your needs, what you got going on in your life, magic can be worked. You could be working magic in a public place with multiple people around and them not even know it. How? By the power of your mind. Because all magic, whether you're using a tangible altar or whether you're performing it in silence in the aspect of your mind, it all has its origin in your mind, right? All of its point of origin and its power comes from your mind. And I keep telling people this. This is why, if again, we cover the Hermetic principles all the time, off and on over the years. For those of you who've contacted me over the years, one of the first books I recommend that you guys read is the Kabbalion by the Three Initiates, the 7 Hermetic Principles, because those principles are showing you how the mind manifests magic when you really look at it from a perspective of how we should be looking at it as occultists and practitioners on this path. Now, even when you're having external experiences, because people always get this, because people sometimes they'll take the first principle and they run with it. And they take it so literal because they don't know how to decipher it and put it into its correct context. Because you'll get people who be on one side of the fence and some people be on the other side of the fence. When it comes to the first principle, all is mental, mental is all, the universe is mental. So everything is mental, right? Everything. So what you're saying is all comes from the mind. It's just an illusion. There's no such thing as deities. They're just yes and no. And I know that sounds confusion. Or it sounds like it's confusion. Okay? Remember, when you're reading, if you're studying a particular pantheon, I don't care if it's the ancient Egyptian deities. I don't care if you're studying the Ifa tradition. I don't care if you're studying the clip hop, right? Yes, these are energies that are very real, right? And you manifest them and you give them life form based on how you connect with them, right? So when you're creating or you're giving life or form to any of these deities, and you say, well, I had an experience, or I had a dream, or I was at my altar and I was doing an invocation or meditation, and then you describe some type of manifestation of a spirit or a deity that you saw, okay? That clearly of what you believe you're seeing in front of you is an external experience, right? Because to an extent it is. It's not because it still had its origin in the power of your mind. Because you have to go into a deep aspect where you're focusing and concentrating. You have to get yourself into a certain receptive state of mind, whether that's meditation, whether that's a visualization, whether that's through, science of breath control and breathing. Any of those things still centers to the point where you have to put yourself into a receptive state of mind so you can connect with the energy that's going to give you answers, or is going to give you some type of or reveal some type of information or experience in order for you to transform and better yourself. So it still has its origin in the mind. Now, Cyclomancy taps into this on a very deep and internal level. Now, there's going to be people again on the both sides of the fence on this. I find information like this is going to depend on where you are at in your spiritual journey. So if you're still kind of at that bottom tier where you're more, I don't know if religious is the right word, but you kind of have that more faith-based or religious type of mindset, doesn't mean you have to say you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, or a Jew. The thing that tends to happen, a lot of us who are on this path today, regardless of how long we've been here, majority of us to some degree were either heavily in those monotheistic religions, or we were exposed to it, even if we weren't. Even if we didn't grow up in a family, that was heavily into monotheistic religion. But the problem is most of us grew up here in the West, and that influence is everywhere, whether it's in church, schools, government buildings, society, religion, politics, you name it. It's there. The influence is there, right? So it depends on where you're at in your journey to understand this. But as I've said before, and I was doing a lot of videos on this last year, late fall, going into the winter through the end of the year, because, and I hate to use that word downloads, because I fucking hate that word, because it's just sounds so goddamn religious and spooky to me. When I was getting my personal messages and communications through my work, not because it was just that I need to get on YouTube and say I have a message for the whole world. I don't do that shit. But anyway, it was clear. We're in an age and era, as I said now. The war to control the masses is the war to control the mind. I keep telling you guys that. They're doing all types of high-tech shit now. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, right? That virtual reality, if you've never experienced that, if you've never used virtual reality goggles or played any type of virtual reality or did anything through virtual reality and AI, it's all based on the mind. I keep trying to tell you that. And if you understand how virtual reality, if you've ever put on virtual reality goggles, right? I've said this before, but let me say it again. Let's just say you're playing a game where you're playing baseball or tennis. You literally, because of the energy signals and messages that's translated that you're seeing in those virtual reality goggles, it's telling you there's a tennis racket in your hand. It's creating all imagery that's sending electrical messages to your brain and your subconscious mind that you're seeing all this, and you literally feel like you have something in your hand. This is why you've even seen videos like on YouTube, joke videos of virtual reality goggles, people crashing into walls. I mean, I've seen all types of crazy shit with it, because it has the ability. Remember, your eyes, number one, your two physical eyes, right, tries to process what it sees, but it's also receiving energy signals, or as we say, information or light travels at X amount of speed, right? That's how consciousness. We went over this before. And when your brain receives those signals, it then tries to process what it's seeing, right? So they have the ability now with technology to send wavelengths of information in nanoseconds, in phenomenal amount of time, to the point where you're able to tap into it like this. And it's so powerful and appears to be so real. And I'm using the virtual goggles as an example. So you really are seeing, because of the signals that your mind is tapping into, you really feel like there's that tennis racket in your hand, right? They've created imageries and send signals where you do really see like this tennis balls flying at you. And you're swinging and playing as if you were playing in the physical, mundane world. If you was on a tennis court and physically, if you've ever played a physical sport, same thing. It's the same experience. So how are they able to replicate that? Ask yourself this question. How are you playing, or how is it possible to almost have the same experience in a simulator as you would on the mental or astral plane, right? And as you would on the physical mundane plane, or which you know is your everyday existence. So it tells us two things. One, there's a fine line or a thin veil between what we're calling the physical world and the spiritual world. Don't get it twisted, okay? A very fine, thin line between the two. See, we keep thinking in our mind that there's an up there and a down here. See, that's part of the fucking illusion that they create. See, that's that religious shit, to look up and out there somewhere. There's nothing up and out there, okay? As far as some god or some figure sitting on a throne, ruling and controlling the universe. That's just complete ridiculousness, okay? As I've said to you guys before, that what we're calling the spiritual world, and I'm just using simple terms that you can relate to, what we're calling the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, the spiritual abode, the astral plane, and which leads to other astral planes, plural and dimensions, and other subjective universes, is all interwoven around you, okay? And as I said before, even when people look at the Baphomet, okay? We always just talk about as above, so below. No, it goes a lot deeper than that. There's a lot more to it than that. We know the second part of that statement, as within, so without. What's really saying is there is no above, there is no below, as within, so without. And I told you, for those that know the mysteries, when the Baphomet, you bring the point up and the point down and you bring them level, it goes right here into the heart chakra, right? The heart chakra is the root of where all your emotions manifest, right? It's where your passion is derived. If you understand the chakra system and you perform magic and you know the power of invocation and how evocation works, you know the power of this heart chakra, right? It's the root seat of all your emotions, good and bad, love, joy, happiness, sadness, rage, anger. All those emotions and those powers that you need to conjure up to work magic and mind control, you have the ability to tap within and pull from there and bring it up and use that into what I'm about to talk about, okay? And I keep trying to tell you, the war to control the masses is the war to control your mind. Because if they can steal your imagination, and I told you, there's a trick in that word, imagination, right? In that word imagination, you see the word image ingrained there, right? Because in order to have an imagination, what one does when they tap into their imagination, they go into the deep recesses of their subconscious mind and conjure up imagery. Thus, we have the word imagination. But then they spook it out. Oh, you're just imagining things. Oh, that's just your imagination playing tricks on you. Look, here's the fucked up part about it. Reality is anything you can think about. Okay, pay attention to what I'm about to say. They don't want you to know this, but you need to know this. Anything you can think about or conjure up, no matter how fucking bizarre it is, no matter how crazy it might seem, no matter how normal it might seem, no matter how loving, peaceful, blissful, chaotic, terrorizing, anything that you can think about or conjure up in thought form exists somewhere. Don't let them bullshit you, okay? What do I mean by that? Real simple. I don't care if it's in a dream or what they call nightmares or just a regular dream, or you're just daydreaming and you go into alpha state. We talked last week about alpha, gamma state. We broke down all those things because that's important to understand too. But when you go into those deep states of thought and you go into the power of your mind or imagination, which creates these images, which are actually a reality if you know how to bring them into existence. And I'm giving you the formula how a real, what we call a black magic working, how it operates, okay? Or what one calls higher form of black magic, right? It starts by going into the imagination. or going into the deep recesses of your mind to tap into these imageries. So no matter what, you might have said, over the years, I've had some crazy dreams. Or you might say over the years, I might have took hallucinogens, ayahuasca or mushrooms, and I saw some bizarre shit. That stuff exists somewhere. It's real. Because remember, when you're dealing with the astral realms, plural, when you're dealing with what we call the endless void and abyss, there are no parameters. There are no boundaries. There's not a beginning point. There's not an ending point. I told you, linear time is a bunch of bullshit. Okay? One, in order to tap into the power of your mind, you must completely omit what they've programmed you with when it comes to linear time. Because when you're trapped in linear time, you can't navigate through your subjective consciousness to tap into the power of what we're getting ready to talk about or what we're talking about. Okay? So you must always approach your work with time is irrelevant. It doesn't exist. Time is something that they created to keep you stuck, right? Because what we're calling time in simplistic form is just existence. That's it. And it's the only way you can really explain it in the English language, which is very limited because it's the youngest language on the planet Earth. So I have to use a word that's very simple to explain it. You cannot calculate linear-wise existence and call it time. Existence means to be. And existence will always be, even when you are not here in physical form. Okay? This is something, you cannot be a magician, a sorcerer, or a practicing witch and not understand that concept. And when you tap into this astral world, for lack of a better word, okay, you must be able or have to leave any of your personal ideologies must be left behind, right? Any of your own personal beliefs and morals and dogmas or things you got in your mind, because when you really tap in to these planes of existence, that stuff doesn't even matter anymore. Okay. This is why a lot of people fail on this path, because they bring old shit with them from previous systems. They want to bring that Christian or Hebrew mysticism and all these lesser systems that serve a purpose in the lesser domains. But when you're practicing high magic or black magic, that shit doesn't hold any weight. Okay. And I told you, if they can convince you and steal your imagination and control the way you think, they have you. That's what this whole, again, you got to be careful what you say because they, algorithms. That's what this whole shift and paradigm has been, starting with the COVID pandemic. I'm trying to tell people that this is not just a global reset. It's not just an economic reset. We see what it's done to the fucking economy, right? They're trying to wipe out debt. They're trying to go to a full digital blown currency. That's getting into something else. But it's also, they're trying to reshape spirituality as we know it. Okay? And I told people, you better pay attention. Always look underneath. When they're doing shit like creating a pandemic, starting world wars, conflicts along the globe, creating racial tensions, rioting, when all that shit was going on, there was a bigger thing going on that you wasn't paying attention to. And it was something spiritual that was deeply hidden in the deep aspects of your subconscious mind. If you really were tapped in when COVID was at its peak, if you were tapped into the death energy, do you know how much spiritual energy? Look, I know this might sound crazy. There was a spirit of suffering and death and power and change. All of these words I can use to describe it. A true magician knows how to tap into all that. See, at that time in 2020, in the really bad stages of it, a true magician was doing powerful work, he or she. There were those who didn't know what the fuck to do with themselves. And then there was people like us like, oh shit, this is a strong time, okay, to practice spiritual magic. There's two ways to look at it. Now, look, I want to make this clear. I am not in any way, shape, form, or fashion saying nobody wants to see anything tragic like that take place. No, nobody wants to see innocent women, children, or people dying. But we can't lose sight of the fact we live in what we call systems of cycle, and this happens. And guess what? When we're long gone and we're not here no more physically, this process continues when you're not here. That system of cycles and secular time, which is different from linear time, that continues on, whether you're conscious of it in your mundane existence or not. And it will continue when you're not here, meaning here, right? This is just the reality. So how you look at things, how you perceive things, and your approach, okay, is going to be a strong determining factor of how successful you are in your life and understanding things and your perspective on things and how you perceive things. Two different things, okay? It's one thing, you could think something for what it is, but that just may not be what it is. But we have to look at understanding that process will happen. Death is a part of that cycle. And regardless of what you think you know, don't know, or whatever your spiritual path or system is, there's one thing that is certain. We hear this cliche all the time. Everybody will go through that cycle of what we call physical death. Now, we know spiritually we never die, right? We understand that when we talk about energy, and we understand when we talk about the soul, some will talk about the vital life force cord, some will talk about the etheric aspect of ourselves, which is the energy aspect of ourselves. That never dies. The Egyptians were trying to break that down when they were talking about the Ka, the Ba, and the Ak, right? If you understand the science between them three and the process of what humans go through in that process. So we know spiritually and energy-wise, nobody ever dies when it comes to a sense like that because the soul lives on eternally, right? But physically, now, depending on your perspective on reincarnation, some of us through our work, and it's personal, know we've been here many times before. We know we've reincarnated many times in many different worlds and many different abodes. Again, confirming in your personal work that secular and cycle time is just that. It's a cycle, right? We don't believe there's no such thing as a beginning and an end, right? And then I know I could hear the book. So how do things come into existence? Exactly. You're not going to get that answer trying to define that by three-dimensional things which are governed by person, place, or thing. You can't do it. So you can't ask a question like that. You must have your own experiences to raise you up to the realization of that answer, which is something you must obtain by being outside of person, place, or thing, whether that's through astral travel, out-of-body experience, or some shape, form of having an OBE, that out-of-body experience, and traveling different realms. It's subjective, so you can't convince others of it who have not had that experience. It's a waste of time, and that's why I don't bother doing it. And this is not about you having to prove to other people and validate your personal experiences for them to accept it. It's about you growing and navigating and getting answers to these questions. What is life? What is death? How did we get here? Where are we going after we leave here? What happens to us when we take that last physical breath? What is the exact process when you give up that last physical breath here on what you know as earth? Then what happens next? And don't bullshit yourself. I know as people will say, well, this is what happened. Oh, it says in there. Yeah, there's speculation. We all got speculation of what could happen. We could see in different texts and books and cultures of them trying to depict what happened. But here's the reality. You will not really truly find out until that time or that moment comes, unless you've done work to get personal realization of when that process is upon you. That's the difference of what we do and what other people attempt to do. So you must come to that realization. Nobody can tell you that. Nobody can teach that to you. Nobody's going to be able to show you something in a book. It just doesn't work like that. Remember, we use these books as tools, right? They're tools to help us navigate our journey. We don't look at the books as the tell-all be-all, including this book. Yes, there's a lot of stuff in every book. I'm sure we all read, including myself. I don't agree with everything in this book. Just like every other book, I navigate and I draw towards the stuff I can absorb, and it's going to help me grow. And I don't really focus on the stuff that maybe I'm just not, I don't comprehend it, or maybe it just doesn't resonate with me, and that's okay. because that's going to be with every author, every book. It's very rare. Not saying maybe you've read a book from maybe almost from cover to end, you agreed with everything in it, but 9 out of 10 times that's rare, right? So in here, for an example, which we're not going to go through this whole thing because it's 230 pages, obviously, but there's just some key points I want to touch on. So really what I'm trying to say, having said all that, what I'm trying to say is real simple, is the essence and the power of your magic starts in the mind. It's that simple. I know I said a lot to get to that point, but I'm trying to tell you, it doesn't, remember your tools, your altar, you give it the power. Your tools and your altar and how you set up your is only as powerful as you, the magician, or he or she, right? People think you're not going to buy a magical tool off of Amazon or in some occult store, and I got this ritual dagger, and oh yeah, it's no, if you're not charging it with your power, and if your power is weak, that tool is weak. Okay, that is a vessel or an extension of your power. We can't get that shit twisted, because magic isn't some Harry Potter shit where you put on a robe and you have a wand and poof. And look, if it was that fucking easy, none of us would be here right now having this conversation, right? We'd all just be waving our wands, manifesting shit in a snap of a finger, and life would be just easy peasy and gravy. Okay? The reality is we are all seekers in these universes, navigating through these worlds, trying to get an understanding of this thing called truth, right? And we come to the realization that it's personal. Okay? Truth is how it's perceived. That's the reality of it. Truth is not because some organization established themselves as a worldwide dominating religion and they make these statements, and just because a large group of massive people agree with it, that doesn't make it truth. But we've been deceived to believe that. That's the fucked up part. I'm not talking about us per se here on this path. I'm saying the sheeple in the world. I call them sheeple. They're not people. They're sheeple because they are prey. They are sacrifices for these powers that be. Who are the powers that be? Anything or anybody that is using or has a personal agenda or is using whatever power they have for self-gain and control, right? That's it. That's the powers that be. Not no spooky thing. You have a lot of wealthy folks who use their money, their influence, their connections, their power, and their knowledge for control. So why? So they can keep that power, that wealth, and that control. That's what I'm talking about, right? We have to find our niche in that. How to? Because we are deserving to being rich and powerful and the controllers of our destiny. Just like those powers that be that feel they have that right. We do too. And we're not waiting around for anybody or anything to give us something, right? The difference of what we do on this path, we take our destiny in our hands and we manifest shit and we make it happen. We're not waiting around. I'm not waiting around for any charismatic leader to tell me what to do. I'm not joining any organization thinking I'm going to get promised some great salvation. I've been part of all of those groups over the years. You're not going to go through some Masonic lodge and get the true secret password of a master Mason. And sorry for you brothers that only stopped at the Blue House. That was the substitute word of a master Mason. You didn't get the real word. Don't let them fool you. Okay? And for all you other fake Masons that read the Duncan's Ritual Manual, don't be deceived and think that that's what Masonry is about, because it's not. Okay? You must understand there's levels to this shit. Okay? There's so many brothers I run into that stopped at the Blue House and they give me the substitute word. And it just tells me where they at. And I'm saying any of them groups are only going to take you so far. You're going to find when you focus on yourself and you're going to realize everything you needed was always here. That's why you'll never fully get it from any of those systems. Doesn't mean you can't be a part of them, get something out of it, but don't go in there expecting like this is the end of be all. This is the tell all be all. No. Because now when you go back and you have a certain level of knowledge, see, I don't look at Masonry the same way I did in the 1990s when I first came into Masonry, for an example. Now I see it totally different. It's It's a different understanding. Okay. All right. But so for an example, what Frank Rudolph Young talks about in here, I want to focus on one thing in here today. But he goes through some of the lessons in the chapters. For an example, lesson 1, how the fantastic potential of your primitive auto-conscious can work for you, right? Lesson 2, how to put your conscious mind, your sensations, recording center in your organs, control center under psychic power control. See, when you understand that your brain, literally, I keep telling you guys this for years, your brain is very similar to a hard drive on what you call a computer, right? And when you download programs into computers or you put drives into them, it stores all that information, right? So everything in existence you have access to, it's stored there in your subconscious mind. See, they don't want you to believe that. They strip that away from you when you're birthed into the world and say you come up through a family that was raised Christian or Muslim or Jew. So religion is always used as the number one tool to cut off your creativity and your divinity and to stop the power of the mind connecting to everything that I'm talking about. So I could put a stop to that and go, wait, hold on, poof. Now, see, there's this God in a place up there in the sky called heaven. See, he said, poof, puff the magic dragon. He created everything. Now you must follow all these rules. You must eat this, dress like this, do this, can't do that. You must follow all these particular holiday and holy days. And keep in mind, this is a jealous God. Don't piss him off, because if you do, he'll tell you shit like you can't kill nobody, but it's okay to kill if he gives the order to kill in his name. And it's just stupidity. When you look at it, it's just a cycle of stupidity, but it's done intentionally to disconnect you from your divinity. Because when you believe that stupid ideology, you cannot tap into the divine that exists naturally within you. So that's why they use religion as a tool to control the masses. And you guys know, if you're on this path, you've seen over the years, one of the hardest person to talk to is a very spooked out religious person who has what I call tunnel vision. It's like there's deer in the headlights. There's so tunnel vision that you can't explain anything to them. That's part of the programming that I talk about. Okay. And one of the aspects of understanding this, and part of magic and mastering yourself, is part of that process is reprogramming the subconscious mind. So remember, everything you experience, that experience is stored in your subconscious mind. Everything you've been taught, told, everything you've been exposed to, every experience in your life you went through is a very part of the fabric of your existence. Now, it doesn't in all cases define who and what you are, but it is part of your existence in the part that you are connected to that experience. And it's downloaded in the subconscious mind. No matter if you're labeling that as a good experience, a negative experience, that's irrelevant. But they know this. So when they start the programming at a very early age, whether it's through the educational system, whether it's through religion, and then as technology now has grown and expanded, they can now program you through TV, entertainment, streaming platforms, social media platforms, cell phones, etc. I mean, this is one of the number one tools of programming. This has become people's virtual reality now. Some people can't survive. You ever see somebody go into panic mode if they leave this shit at home? To go to show you how deep that program is. Some people can't function if they're without their cell phone for 30 minutes. I've seen people go batshit fucking batty, okay? We must understand everything you expose yourself to, your subconscious mind stores that experience, okay? So when you're having dreams, right? Even when you were a kid, when your imagination was more pure, right? Because remember, think about, some people always say this to me, right? Some people will say stuff like, I noticed when I was young, when I was a kid, man, I had a powerful imagination. I used to have a lot of powerful dreams. And now all of a sudden, as I've gotten older, I don't have that connection no more. That's a real simple answer for that, because of all the programming you've been exposed to. See, when you're younger and there's not all that programming there yet, this is why they say children really up until the age of 7 is when you really start to develop a full aspect of your imagination. Children have that pure connection because there's not that systematic program in there. And they're more naturally connected to what we're calling the spiritual world. So we have to understand all these things. So you look at your subconscious mind like the hard drive on a computer. It stores everything there you expose it to. But also keep in mind, if that hard drive or computer, if it's overworked or if it's overloaded, what happens? The computer malfunctions. It gets what they call a virus. And then usually something has to be done to remove the virus, to deprogram it, and then what? Reprogram it again. I just basically described the process and the journey that you're going through on this path when you make the intention to walk this path. You're doing the same thing. You're saying my mind is fucked up. It's been overloaded with so many systems of indoctrination and programming that now it's sick. It's got a virus. And I need to now reprogram it. It's the same thing. So everything is there. So now your job as you navigate to this path is, how do you tap into it now? How do you pull from those experiences? How do you go into your subconscious mind and pull and use what you can use now for your benefit? Now, there's another aspect, I'm not going to get into too much of that now tonight, that you also use to address shadow work the same way. It's how we do it. And for those that are on the Patreon, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. Then he's got lesson 3, how to put your muscle coordination center under psychic power control. Lesson 4, how to put your resisting nerve gap under psychic power control. Lesson 5, how to put the nerve electricity in your brain and body under psychic power control. Now, let me stop. Notice there's a lot of things here connected to neurological functions. I got to stop here. Because if you were paying attention to what I said earlier, hopefully it's something manifested in your mind. If you notice a lot of these illnesses, plagues, and pandemics, there's a core attack on your central nervous system. There's always some neurological effects that it has. Yogi Raj Chamrak, who was a guru, a Swami, right? He talks about in a lot of his work the importance of this, right? So let me stress something to you. It's very important, along with your immune system and your neurological system. This is their way to come in and attack and destroy you, okay? Not just physically. Yes, obviously physically. If the neurological system and the immune system is in function, obviously physical illness that's obvious. But mental and spiritual illness becomes even greater. And this is why I said, what's one of the things? COVID focused on 2 things: attacking your immune system and your neurological system. And there's people to this day who have what they call long COVID that creates long-lasting neurological effects. Okay, I gave you guys some supplements, NAC, right? Microbarberine, PPQ. All of these things help with proper neurological functioning, with your nervous system, how your brain operates, right? Everything that they're doing and the attack and everything that they're focusing on is the function of your neurological system, your autoimmune and immune system, and your brain power. Because they know and this is why we must protect our energy and our spiritual power, because they know if too many of us wake up, we're not going to be controlled zombies and puppets anymore. And they got a bigger problem on their hand. Okay? Look, they were telling you shit during COVID. Stay indoors, wear a mask. And everybody that got so-called severe COVID, what they were calling severe COVID, all had one similar pattern: severe deficiency of vitamin D. Now, come on, people. If you know this, why would you tell people to stay indoors? I'll tell you why: because they don't want you getting any of that natural D from outside. I'll tell you, we need the natural D. You need to supplement yourself with a minimum of 1,000 IUs a day. Okay. We need to understand these things because there is an aspect of this where we have to have knowledge of self in order to take care of ourselves. So, in addition to basic stuff, getting exercise and the normal stuff, eating to the best of your ability, the best you can, you better be taking care of your mental health and your neurological health. Because once that's gone, they got you, people. Okay. And that's what the attack has been on. Even when you look at all this shit that they put on the news, it's to psychologically create disturbances in your mind. Because you're turning on the news every day, all you're seeing is countries getting bombed, war, violence, riots. This is being done intentionally to create the emotion of fear. And when fear, you can use the emotion of fear to control people, that is a powerful tool. Okay, I told you there's a technique, and it's fucking crazy. And I don't watch this shit a lot, but if I'm ever flipping through the channels and I come across CNN, which is the most comical news channel ever, they have this habit. Maybe you guys have seen this. And again, I don't really watch it a lot, but I always seem to catch this periodically. If they're breaking a news story, right, the anchor will be talking about the story, and they'll have superimposed on the screen or in the background, but usually superimposed on the screen, they're playing a loop of a clip repetitively over and over. Like it might have been an incident, say, of a riot or an incident that took place. They're showing about a 10-second loop of that. Now, this could be going on continuously for several minutes. That's being done intentionally to stamp something in your subconscious mind. Now, words are sounds, right? When you hear words and you translate those words or you perceive the meaning of those words, that has an effect on you. Okay? Sound, vibration, tone, and frequency. And the impact of those sound, tones, vibrations, and frequencies, coupled with watching that continuous loop, is doing things to you that you're not fully conscious of. And I'm catching it. I'm like, look at this shit. They trying to do some subliminal form of fucking programming on us. Okay? And that's what's going on. Okay? You must pay attention. Don't remember, it's never what it looks like on the surface. So whatever, if it's some news shit and they're breaking news, you best believe there's an agenda beneath that. That's not really what it is. Okay? That's not really what it is. But we must be conscious of this, because if we're not conscious of this, aware of it, whatever you want to call it, it's very easy for us to get programmed against our will. So, yes, essentially, I'm saying there's a lot of people walking around, they're programmed robots and they don't think they are. And they shit. Some of them will be the ones to speak out against that they're not. And what dictates that? Real simple, just the actions, the things that people do. Okay. All right. So then he gets into lesson 5, how to put the nerve electricity in your brain and body under psychic power control. You cannot do that if you're not in a sound mind. Your central nervous system, your neurological functions are the key and the strength to your spiritual power. Right? There's another, I said this before, I remember the name of the book. It's called Mechanics of the Mind. It was written by another yogi in the late early 1900s, called Mechanics of the Mind. And there's something that he says in that book that's very powerful. Right? There's a phrase in that book that says, mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Mind your mind, like a miner, mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Okay? Really what that's saying is, you lose your mind, you lose your soul. People say, how do you lose your soul? Right? We had this term in religion, lose your soul. Oh, he lost his soul. How could he get it back? Well, you lose your mind, you lose your soul. And remember, your soul is the very essence of your existence, of who you are. So if they could steal your soul via this, they got you. That's how they do it. So you must be very aware of what you're taking in. You must be very conscious of spiritually what you're working with, the type of information you're ingesting, then the tangible things like food, diet, exercise. All this is going to play a part of how things affect you. That's the reality. It's going to determine how you absorb these things and how you perceive these things. It's that simple. Okay. All right. Then he's got lesson 6, how to multiply your energy with psychic power control. Okay. Lesson 7, how to never get tired by putting your muscle tone under psychic power control. Lesson 8, how to use the astounding power of your brain horns and put it under the psychic power control. Now, what deity do you see has brain horns? I remember seeing this a while back, a few years ago. It made me think of images of Lucifer or the devil or Satan. Even when you see these images, what do they always show right on the top of the brain? They always show 2 horns. When I saw this, a few years back. Now remember, this book came out. I believe there was 2 or 3 printings of it. The first one, I believe, came out in 1966. It's right here in the beginning of the book. And I believe there was a second printing in 67. So keep in mind, this book has been out for a long time. Right? Not by standards of some other occult books, older occult books, but keep in mind, this book has been out since 1966. Okay? All right. Lesson 9, how to put your seeing and hearing reflexes under psychic power control. Lesson 10, how to put your primitive seeing center and your highest visual center under psychic power control. Lesson 11, how to put your primitive hearing center under psychic control. Lesson 12, how to use auto-conscious healing to bring others under psychic power control. This would be a more scientific explanation of how people cast spells on other individuals. Literally what it is. Lesson 13, how to do the seemingly impossible with your body, electricity, and your brain horns. Is that word again. Lesson 14, how to develop and gain unbelievably from psychic power vision. Lesson 15, how to develop gain stupendously from psychic power hearing. Lesson 16, how to put your aura and its power of psychometry under psychic power control. Lesson 17, how to develop and use your astral senses for psychic power control. I'm going to tap into a little bit of that in a minute. Lesson 18, how to extract profitable knowledge from the physio-astral world with psychic power control. Lesson 19, how to use the secrets of psychic power divination to control others at will. Lesson 20, how to put the physio-astral world under psychic power control and acquire miraculous power. That's the one I'm going to focus on. All right. So you see, everything is dealing with the physio and the psychological aspect of the power of the mind. That's the point that I'm trying to get you guys to see. Okay. Let's go into that section there. Again, there's 2 ways, hard copy, like I said, to get this book. Good luck. And if you do find a seller that has a hard copy, he's probably going to rip you off, he or she. But the book is available, as I said. It's $8.99. You can buy the digital version of it on Kindle for $8.99, and it is free on Script. Okay. Probably your better bet. Let me go to page 195. All right. Hold on. How's it getting there? There we go. All right. Now there's layers to this, right? I just want to focus on this last section. A couple of things in here is what I kind of want to focus on for tonight. again, there's a lot. This is not something you can just cover, obviously, in one sitting. And more than likely, we'll attack this more deeper in the Patreon classes, right? So this is just something quick I wanted to come on here to do. All right, how to put the physio-astral world under psychic power control and acquire miraculous power. Now, again, I want to make this clear. When you read this book, don't get sucked in. When you hear shit like that, don't get sucked in on the level like, oh shit, boo, it gets spooky, right? Because you hear terms such as acquire miraculous power. Be careful, right? You always want to go into stuff having the ability to master yourself, but you always want to go in with that mindset that, okay, I'm going to stay harmonized and grounded in my approach to understanding this, because some people sometimes will hear shit like that and they'll go to Spookyville right out the gate. Okay. For centuries, the East Indians have baffled foreigners with their power of induced vision. This power results from creating thought forms so authentic that the people in your presence actually see them and accept them as factual. So what he's saying here in essence is you have the ability to create powerful thought forms, so powerful, if you know the correct way to do this, that literally people around you will start to see them and they'll accept them as factual. That's a pretty intense statement. East Indian fakirs have developed this ability so fantastically that they have shown travelers mountains in the distance, suddenly undating and moving around at their verbal commands. In the Western world, there are actors who can gaze into space and see scenes which don't exist and can induce the audience to see them without a word. So think about this for a second. Well, ask yourself, how could somebody, that last part, can induce somebody to see something via their thought forms without even saying a word? That's very interesting. Think about this again. Let me say it again. What is that process if you're creating or thinking about thought forms and manifesting them to the point that they're so powerful that others can see them and you haven't even verbalized any of it? Keep that in mind. How is this achieved? When your optic nerve is only a message carrying nerve, or a nerve which only carries images from your retina to your visual centers, it is achieved because your optic nerve also contains a few fine command delivery fibers that run from your highest visual center in your conscious mind to your retina. Now, remember, I was talking about the virtual reality goggles before. The reason why I wanted to focus on this, you're getting now an answer of how they're able to do this process, quote unquote, through virtual reality. Okay? Because listen to the term virtual, meaning another alternative, or reality, right? If you understand the surface explanation of it. Okay? They're showing you how this is done. Now, this could be looked at two ways: as a positive spiritual power, or it could be used as a system of deprogramming. Okay? You can use this to convey to your retina the pictures which you create in your conscious mind by driving them to it with an intensive psychic power command. These pictures or images are converted in your retina to radio waves, right? So how we absorb things is through sound, vibration, through frequencies, not necessarily through what you're calling the visual eye. Because once that energy of those sound waves hit the retina and go through the optic nerves, you are now assimilating these messages via vibration, sound, and frequency. Okay? This is why they say there's these two eyes. Now you understand why they say the third eye of the brain, or the pineal, right? The brow chakra, right? The center of the forehead, the front portion lobe of the brain is responsible for some of your most powerful spiritual visions. It's how you assimilate consciousness, right? You got these two eyes, right? Which is just the gateway or the doorway to how the consciousness enters. They just look at them as two portholes. And this is why they say, be careful what you see with this, because it could be an illusion that necessarily what you're seeing with these two physical eyes ain't really what it is. It's explaining to you the science right here of how we absorb consciousness and take that information and how we process it. Same way we're able to create this image. This is the answer of how you can silently not say nothing and have such an intense, powerful visual thought form, and a person see it. Why are they seeing it? Because of the vibration and the frequency of the energy of those thought forms. That's how they see it. Okay? Even though you're not speaking a verbal word, I hope this ain't going over anybody's head, right? I know it's not something, but I hope you're following what I'm saying. So if I understand the power of thought form, if I understand the power of sound, vibration, and frequency, and I'm formulating these thought forms, and I've put that energy behind that power, vibration, and frequency, I can pass that vibration and frequency on to anybody that is around me. Where now they too can tap into that energy and they go through the same process. And now they're seeing it the same way that I'm seeing it. I'm also showing you how you do spells, or what they call spells in spiritual magic, if you're paying attention. Look, this is why I say this. Look, the path, as you navigate through the path, it's not for everybody. Literally, 100%. I know a lot of people come on this path. They think it's for them. It's good in the beginning, and they tap into shit that they like. But then when they get to this type of stuff, and they got to put in serious work, and it's like, oh wow, I don't know, not sure. But anyway. All right. You can use these, let me reiterate this, to convey your retina, the pictures which you create in your conscious mind by driving them to it with an intensive psychic power command. These pictures or images are converted in your retina to radio waves. That's where we left off. You can drive them into the brain horns of another person so that they reproduce the picture you conceived in your conscious mind, explaining what I just explained, clearly on his own retina. This is how you create the magic picture for him to see and accept as a true picture. To succeed with induced vision, you have to reproduce most accurately the structures you visualize in your thought forms so that you can produce an authentic image of them in your highest visual center. Otherwise, the image will not be reproduced clearly enough to implant a convincing enough image on the other person's retina. You have to create your thought forms like the good storyteller who relives the whole story himself when he tells it. That's why there's certain people who can tell stories and captivate people's emotions, because when we all can reflect on somebody, they tell so many good stories, or somebody's such a great storyteller that they command your full attention. You're so drawn in. Think about it. You're so drawn in, and as they're telling the stories, it says here they're reliving it, and then what starts to happen? You're starting to relive it with them, and you don't even realize it sometimes. Like they might be describing a certain incident, a certain thing going on. I remember back in the day and such, and we was at this park and such, and then all of a sudden you're getting drawn in. You start to see the park. You start to see everything that person's describing. You start to even see the people they might be naming that you may never have met at any point in your lifetime, but you're starting now to see the people. They got form, they got a visual, got a fit. That's the power of this. So you might have been a victim. You might have been a victim of cyclomancy in this form, didn't even know it. Or maybe you did to an extent. You see what I'm saying? Okay. This is how you got to look at this, man. That's the power of this. Okay. Jack or Jane has to perceive the exact details which you visualize and ignore those which you ignore. That is induced vision, the specialty of the Indian fakir. Master it yourself. Now, this is how you can influence your will or impose your will upon others. Right? You know who does this? You know what type of people, profession naturally has this skill, whether they know it or not, is a good salesman. Think about, we all at some point, regardless of what it was, Think about at some point, reflect. Come on now be real with yourself. Don't bullshit yourself. I don't care if it was in a retail store, at a car lot, buying an electronic purchase or whatever. Think about, reflect, and I'm sure it's probably happened more than once, where you might have walked into a place, right? You might even said to yourself, you might even think you're one of those people with, oh man, nobody could talk me into buying anything. Think about this shit. You know it's true what I'm getting ready to say. And if you are honest, put it in the comments if you're honest. You might have walked into a spot and said, nah, I'm just going to, oh no, ain't nobody can bullshit me and talk me. And then you ran into that one charismatic salesman. Okay. And all of a sudden you had no intentions to buy that item. And then they started talking about it. They started pointing out the features. They started telling you this and that. Let's say it's a TV. Oh, it's a smart TV. It can do this. It can do that. Now, as they're talking about it and they're sounding good, they know how to convey the information. You're now visualizing what they're saying to the very point. Then he hits you upside the head, or she hits you upside the head and closes the sale or the deal. And the next thing you know, a couple $1,000s later, you walked out, never had the intent to buy it. That's imposing your thought forms on another individual. And in order to be a salesman in that field, you have to have that ability. There's another old school book. I got to get it. It's, oh man, I'll bring it out. It goes back to the early 1900s. How to do sales. It's crazy. It's like an occult book, but it's not really an occult book. And it deals with stuff like this. I got to pull it out. It's just a really old book. It's buried somewhere. I got to find it. But you'll find that these people have that skill, whether they know it or not. A good salesman. I'm not talking about a garbage salesman. There's some people that just shouldn't even be selling because they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. I've always said, because for years, even before doing what I do now, I was in retail sales for years. And I always used to tell guys when we used to train them, you got to have the ability. You could have dog shit on a napkin and tell somebody it's gold. And it's dog shit, but after you're done talking to them, they see that it's gold, right? Same process, okay? This is how this works, okay? And all of it, again, it starts from here, okay? All right, then he's got some, to skip through this, then he's got some exercises you could actually practice to enhance the skill. The good thing about the Cyclomancy book is there's exercises you can practice. He goes into detail, right? This one here, I think it's got 5 different exercises for what we just talked about. So look at that in your own time. The next section I want to focus on is how to use your astral body for telekinesis. This is interesting, right? We talk about the physical, right? And then obviously everybody mentions or talks about the astral, okay? Telekinesis is defined as the movement of physical objects without physical contact from the person responsible for moving them. It means, in simpler language, that you move physical objects without touching them. Much psychic phenomenon is wrongly attributed to spirits. Little, however, need to be attributed to them exclusively. The physical, after all, includes the psychic. Now, there was a movie that you might have remembered from years ago, the original with Drew Barrymore, Firestarter. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. Okay. Now, we could take this telekinesis aspect even a little bit deeper. Not only can it come to just the ability of moving objects, right? When I bring up the movie Firestarter with Drew Barrymore, which came out in the early 1980s. And if you remember the story, she had the power to focus in on something with her mind. And one of the gifts she had was the element of fire or flames. And she was able, just with the power of her mind, to ignite a fire, right? Hence, we got the title Firestarter. So not only is it the ability to just move objects with the power of the mind, you can actually tap in and alter elements such as fire, water, etc. Okay. And again, it goes to show you how when you intently focus in on something and you create the intense vibrational frequency of that thought form, which manifests and gives life, right? This is what creates everything that's being talked about here or can affect something or somebody around you, right? So they've been trying to show us this shit for years. It's always been there. It's just we've never tapped into it on the level that we are supposed to, okay? All right, then there's some exercises here. Again, we're just doing a quick synopsis. All right. The next one I want to run through real quick. I'm almost done and I'll take some questions. That's a lot. Well, there's a couple more things I want to navigate through here. All right. All right, so the next thing, as you navigate through this last lesson here, how to master and use the power of materialization, right? Which is manifestation, materialization, which is your goal as a magician, right? You try to materialize things, manifest things, bring them into existence, right? Materialization is another advanced physio-astral ability. It is not easy to master because it is also handicapped by the incredulity of conscious and subconscious minds. Mediums perform it regularly while in a trance state. The medium's body practically goes into suspended animation. Psychic masters nevertheless achieve it solely with astral body projection. Your astral body projection can assume any form if you wish it to, right? That's why we talk about a system in astral body projection called shape shifting, right? You could not just take on the form of humans, you could take on the form of animals. And some that practice this take flight in different forms, right? Okay, this is now the path of vampirism deals with this heavily. If you understand vampiric practices, energy feeding, taking spiritual flight, right? That's an ancient vampiric practice when dealing with any energy absorption and energy feeding, right? So you could take any form you wish to, just visualize the desired form convincingly enough in your psychic power center. After your astral body is separated from your physical body and it sends its psychic power command to reproduce the visualization, and that's how you practice. So for an example, when you are taking form of something, right? You have to be able to focus. So let's just say you're getting ready to astrally project and you want to take on a different form. You have to power, as it says here, through your psychic center, you have to be able to formulate in a very detailed, visual, and powerful way that thought. And you must make that command. That command must be instructed to the subconscious mind the moment that you get ready, at that very moment where you get ready to separate from the body and take flight. Because that's when now you take that form or that shape of what the thought you were thinking. So it has to be done at that moment in order for you to take a different form when you take flight outside of what you know of this. I know that might sound crazy to some, but some that have practiced it, you know what I'm talking about. It's called in other systems, as I said, one thing you'll hear it called in other systems is shape shifting. How does one shape shift? Same way. Okay. So think about that. When you're getting ready to separate the body, when the soul is getting ready to leave the body and take flight, the command must be given at the moment of separation. Because whatever command is given at that moment of separation is the shape and the form that you will take flight in. Now, it takes discipline, right? Is it going to happen right out the gate for some? No. Is it an easy process? I'm not saying it is. No. Is it obtainable with work, discipline, and consistency? Most definitely, yes, 100%. Okay. Then he's got exercises on that. Okay. And then there's one more thing. You know what? I think we'll stop there. Yeah, we'll stop there because there's more. I don't want to dig. But again, there's a lot more in this book. There's so much information in it. There could be class upon class, and we'll dig deeper in this in our Patreon classes. I wanted to go through just some key components in that last section there, which I thought is very important. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to go through some questions and comments here. Well, more so questions than comments. I'll see what I can get through. So let's get you guys' thoughts on this. Questions, thoughts. And again, the whole purpose is to get you guys to see the importance of a sound mind, right? The importance of mental power, the importance of being in sound mind and body and spirit, right? If they strip us of that, they know they can rip us apart from the inside out and control us and break us down to nothing. Okay. The last thing they want is you to be a critical thinker. And as I've said for many years, in order to be successful on this path, you must be a critical thinker. We're not a normal breed. We just don't accept anything anybody tells us. We just don't believe anything because everybody else believes it. Right? We come to the realization of it for ourselves through our work and our practice and our study. And we make that determination if this is factual for us or not. We couldn't give a shit if everybody else and everybody else and their mother's doing it. It doesn't mean nothing to us. All right, so let's see what we got. So again, infernal blessings to all. If I didn't greet you in the beginning, infernal blessings. All right, what else we got? All right, Sperling, you out there in Illinois, be careful out there, be safe. Brother Louis, yeah, Tata Nahisi, and then under Louis F. Yeah, we're gonna have Tata coming in next Patreon class. We have that upcoming on the 15th. African Witchcraft and Sorcery class number 8. Okay. All right, good. Then we put it on his calendar. Okay, Xander says Amazon occasionally will have a soft copy of Cyclomancy if you put the author on your watch list. Yeah, so I mean, whatever method. I just know the original hardback. Good luck. That's going to be hard. If you didn't have it from going back, tough. I mean, the information is the important thing. I mean, you have access to getting a full copy of it. And again, let me also reiterate, Amazon also has a full digital version of it, a very clear, very high quality digital version of it for $8.99. Okay. Xander says the books kind of remind me of old science mind books that were popular in the 50s, like Joseph Murray. Good stuff in there. Yeah. I mean, you had a lot of that time frame, that period, and talking when you talk about the 50s and guys like Joseph Murray. Like I said, man, a lot of these books, and even the one we're reaching, a Cyclomancy, which came out in 1966. A lot of those older books from that period, and even going further back, I like them because they're raw, uncut, raw, unfiltered, no chaser, straight to the point, and they will talk about things in in a multitude of ways that, you would think of. It's crazy. You say, man, I didn't even realize, man, shit. Going way back then, people were talking about stuff like that. Oh, yeah. They were talking about it raw and unfiltered. And no matter how bizarre it might have came off of, or as it seemed, they were. Mika says she said, yeah, $2,500 hard copy. Yeah, I wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have there's gonna be those couple of fuck nuts out there that have a copy, and they were fortunate. And and there's some hard copies circulating, but good luck. That's kind of why I was saying what I was saying. Good luck. What else we got? Peace. Oh, okay. Peace to Urban Alchemist, HPIC. Hashtag the Dexter of Brujas. Okay. Greetings to you. Little Horn says you can confess with your mouth and believe with your heart in reference to anything. Well, that's your subjective consciousness, right? That's when they say you got to understand your spiritual understanding is very subjective in nature, and that's really the root and the foundation of it. And again, it's not about convincing others first and foremost. It's about convincing yourself, right? Now, but there must be a harmonization of that understanding. Here's where it gets a little dicey. There must be that harmonization of that understanding between your subjective consciousness and subjective realm, and your objective consciousness and your objective realm. Because what can also happen sometimes in that process, somebody can go way out there to Spookyville and they don't make it back. Okay. And then vice versa. Some people just disconnect altogether spiritually and vibrate on such a low frequency in the mundane or physical world that they don't have any sight or awareness of spirituality. So again, it's one of those things where there's a very fine and thin line between the two that separates them. Very, very thin. All right, what else we got? Logan Scott says, I saw someone tweet on Twitter today that the Baphomet is a transsexual, transhuman demon that is a physical depiction of Satan that's worshipped by the Jesuits and Freemasons. All right. Let me just clarify a couple things in that. All right. I get it. Today, June is LBGTQ, transgender and gay, homosexuality month. I get all that. Power to you. So, people reaching for straws with that one. Okay. The mythology with Baphomet being first of all, anybody that believes that Baphomet's a literal demon is completely fucking stupid. Okay. And I'm not sure where the Jesuits and the Freemasons came in. I know they say, the Knights of Templar have always been heavily linked to acknowledging the Baphomet. I could see where they're getting the sexual trans thing, because there is androgyny or androgynous energy connected to Baphomet, because you see the goat face of the man and the female breasts of the women. That's that androgyny, masculine, feminine. So I could see why somebody that might be part of the LBG, etc., interpret it as that. I mean, I get it. But I don't know about some of those other statements. Worship by Jesus. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I don't think that's 100%. Well, I understand why it's out there, though, especially in the month that we're in now. Isn't Masonry all about compassion? Well, let me answer this two ways. Okay, to create a soul. I'm not sure if you are male or female Mason or not. Is compassion involved in Masonry? Yes. Is it all about compassion? Absolutely not. Don't let nobody fool you. Okay? Masonry, first and foremost, compassion is one of the many elements connected to Freemasonry. Masonry, first and foremost, I've said this before. Here's a quick way to summarize it, and I'm saying as being a Mason. When you enter the lodge, you'll always take note. When you look in the east, where the worshipful master sits, you will see two ashlars in the east, two stones. One is very rough, rugged, a lot of imperfections, and the other one is very smooth. That is to remind you that you enter the lodge a rough ashlar, meaning you enter the lodge with a lot of imperfections, a lot of character flaws, a lot of things that you have to work on about yourself. And your goal is to become like that smooth ashlar. And when you really look at what Masonry is about, right, and one of those aspects, compassion, is linked to self-mastery, right? Because it's all about mastering the self. It's all about understanding the self and their relationship to the grand architect of the universe. Now, that grand architect of the universe could be, depending on who the person is, can be perceived as some type of God, could be perceived as some type of energy, could be perceived as some type of form of consciousness. Depends on the person and their background. And that's why when you also look in Masonry, that's why politics and religion isn't talked about in the lodge. You won't hear the word Jesus in the lodge, right? There's a reason, or there's a science for it. So I wouldn't say it's all about compassion. Is compassion connected to it? Yes, but there's so much more elements when you get down to the very essence of it, okay? What else we got? Yeah, there's a good statement from Louis. Could it be safe to say a consultation is a basic conversation and a reading is more of an in-depth occult examination with a goal setting and life path? Yes, 100%. But some people obviously don't understand that when they book a consultation. They think it's a reading. It's not. It must be very clear. But yes, that's a good explanation, Tata. All right, what else we got? All right, so we left off with the Baphomet one, right? Yeah, I don't blame you, Logan. I wouldn't have said anything either. Look, one thing you start seeing in life, everybody's got a fucking agenda, right? That, to me, that's an agenda statement, right? And again, I get it. I get how somebody could interpret that and then try to convince others, to see it that way. And that's in alignment with everything we were talking about earlier, right? How you influence people. There's a classic example. All right. What else we got? Yeah, you can't, like I said, man, a lot of these news programs, they're formulated on at what you just said, draining you. It takes the life force out of you, you know. And as I've said a lot over the last few years, we're in a day and time where you can't avoid this. There's always some form of influence of pumping this news in your brain, whether it's on your phone, through TV, through the social media platforms, etc. I mean, it's a heavy programming tool, man. All right. Oh shout out to Brother Jay. What's going on? All right, so thought forms versus this is from Xander Promio versus egregores. That's a good question. Oh well, it's a good topic to bring up there. All right, so let's put that into context. Very important. All right. So there is a connection with egregores and thought forms. So let's first establish what an egregore is, right? An egregore would be a current or a group of people linked into a current, right? As an entity as a whole. And when let's just say you practice a spiritual system, right? Or a specific spiritual path, or you belong to a specific spiritual order, you are automatically linked into that egregore or group of people. So what can happen is you could start to feel and see other people's thought forms or thoughts, or tap into their thoughts and sense what they're feeling if they're a part of that egregore or group that you're connected to. So there's a connection to it for sure. I don't think it's really one versus the other. I think it's about understanding how they both work, because there's definitely a connection there. And when you work with, look, for an example, you'll see a thing. Sometimes you hear people that are practicing witches, or people that practice vampirism. You'll hear something such as called, like, what they call coven, right? And you'll find out people who large groups of people who belong to different covens, right? They're able to tap into other people's thoughts and energy that are part of that group. And you'll hear them talk about this. They have the ability, to automatically tap in to the frequency, and other people can feel the same thing, right? So you'll even see, for an example, and I've talked about this before, you'll even see as an example, sometimes if you belong to a specific group, you can intentionally be doing a ritual or a meditation and visualize literally, that group being around you, where you can see a silhouette, a shadow, or create a manifestation of them, where you can exchange those thought forms. Even to the point where some people who are linked to egregores will talk about getting into other people's dreams, literally, right? So there's definitely a connection there. Definitely a connection there. All right, what else we got? Okay, so Devin McLean says, I was going to get into Freemasonry a while back. Went for about 6 months. Just don't know if I'm compatible, because I know we are God and I felt like an outcast. And would it even benefit me to join? That's a very good question. Okay. Totally get what you're saying and where you're coming from. Right. I've found over the years, and more so in my experience, traveling to different lodges in different states, and even a few out of the country, a lot has to do with the type of lodge you're in. Let me explain. And I can only describe this, again, in my experience of traveling around over the years to different Masonic lodges, especially more so when I was active. All right, so you're gonna find out. First, I was very fortunate, because from day one I set foot in the lodge, I felt like in my travels I was always in the right lodge at the right place at the right time. Not everybody else has that same experience, though. Okay, so that's fact. I feel what you're saying about the compatibility and being God. Sometimes it feels like you feel lesser of yourself, and I get that. I found, again, when you find the right lodge, and you could visit a few lodges, you don't got to settle on your first one. You could visit a couple of local lodges. I was real big on finding the right energy that I was able to tap into, because I know it helped me grow where I can go at my pace, as opposed to I'll be honest with you. I see the different personalities of different lodges that I travel to over the years. Now I find down south, you're going to find lodges that are more Bible Belt orientated. I found in some lodges they can be, in a very non-direct way, more religious than Christians. Me personally, I didn't like lodges like that, because energy-wise, I just didn't feel comfortable sitting in there. But then the lodge that I found that worked for me, and the lodge that I'm currently a member of, even though I don't go regularly, but I keep my dues current, they had an esoterical society, and they dealt with some esoterical things, and it was the right brothers there. The dialogue was right. So a lot of these lodges, as I said in the past, they have their open night dinners once a month. It's a good way to go, feel the lodge out, try to go to some events. Whether to join or not, long story short, that's personal. I'm not going to tell somebody to or not to, but what I am telling you is just have an understanding of what you're getting into. That's all. Yeah, and again, it's going to depend on the lodge you go to. Yes, like I've even found, in my opinion, after you go through the Blue House, right, you have the choice either to travel the York Rite or the Scottish Rite. And I found out those that travel the York Rite tend to be more religious. So there's gonna be influences there, but those are things you can work around. And it's a personal choice. I'm not gonna tell you to or not. I mean, you can get a lot out of it. The experience itself is a good teacher, but just be clear on what you're getting into and why. That's the other important thing. Why? Okay. Okay. So the brain horns, when you hear the author talking about the brain horns, right? And you'll see in different cultures, whether it's in mythology and, as I said, in religion and spirituality, you see Satan always has the two horns, right? Positioned on the frontal lobe part of the brain, right? So the reason why I was bringing that up earlier is, right, those horns, as I said, uh, those are, look at those as the antennas are up. Those are conductors that absorb and facilitate and take in the information. That's why Lucifer, when he's known in his aspect as the Lord of Light, master of intellect, right? He brings that understanding of those higher thought forms that we're talking about tonight. That light or that intellect that emerges from the darkness comes by way, of Lucifer. I mean, there's a lot shit. I mean, you look at a lot of these movies over there. They always were depicting, why the horns on the frontal part of the brain, right? So yeah. Ah, that's funny. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you go to yeah, man, I've been to a couple lodges with some old heads. That shit could be boring as fuck. I ain't gonna lie. Again, it's about, you gotta be. Hopefully, you have an opportunity. If you did pursue it, to check out a few lodges, because I feel your pain, man. Emperor Kenny says, my home lodge is Lodge 236 in Boynton Beach, Florida. Okay. What else we got? Yeah, again, with anybody, whether it's a teacher, an author, when you're reading the book, you just get, you throw away the bullshit you don't resonate with. Um, you're gonna have to take that, you take that, as it be. But yeah, I mean, shit, you don't tolerate or take anything you don't like, and obviously everybody has that right. Um, but yeah, it's more important for yourself that you take and pull from things that resonate with you, and what you don't like, you don't agree with, you toss that shit to the back. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Well, the thing is with melanin, like I see what Matthias typed here, melanin is important, but don't let that hold you back. See, you got to understand, and it's something Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum broke down a couple of times, and he hit it dead on. First of all, you got to understand the science of melanin. You got to understand the difference between neuromelanin and neuromelanin. The more important thing is the neuromelanin, which coats every aspect of your nervous system, your internal organs, your brain, right? And neuromelanin is formed at the stem of the brain. It's the superhighway of consciousness that we're able to use to tap into, that connects us to what we're calling consciousness. And neuromelanin obviously is responsible for the outer pigmentation of your skin, regardless of how fair, brown, or dark it might be. So I think what can happen when the race card comes up with ethnicities, you got to look at this two ways, right? How that melanin manifests on an external level, uh, shit, depends on your ethnicity, right? You could see just among certain Latinos, for example, some Latinos can look extremely white. You can see some Dominicans and Puerto Ricans that can look black. You could see people from the Mediterranean. They can sometimes look more black or have darker skin hue, and they're from the Mediterranean than even some folks that might be of a ethnicity that quote unquote produces more neuromelanin, right? So that, don't get that confused with, when we're talking about spirituality, the more important thing is neuromelanin, right? And each individual, and Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum broke this down a couple times when he came on the show. He said you could take an Asian, a Latino, a European, and an African, all have the ability and the potential to produce whatever amount of neuromelanin that they want in order for their spiritual growth, in reference to everything that I was talking about earlier. It doesn't matter. So when you take it from a more spiritual perspective, there's gonna be people, because that's their thing. That's what they promote. That the race thing. Yeah, you could sit there and use it, whatever. You understand? But the reality is, if you really understand this path, you're gonna find people who are successful on this path. One second here. So, um, you're gonna find that people on this path, I've seen them have the same amount of ability, power, and heights. Look, going back to my early days, I was wrapped up in all that shit back in the day, 5% Nation and the Whoppy and shit, all that shit. See, that stuff appeals to certain people's egos. Is there differences? Look, we can sit here and be talking about, is there differences between races? Does racism exist? Of course, all that stuff is real. But as I said earlier, when you're practicing magic, all that shit is irrelevant. When you are tapping in to your spiritual power, your personal ideologies and all that shit's out the window. That shit don't matter. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, but opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right? I don't let that factor in. And I mean, I couldn't give a shit, right? You got to develop thick skin on this path. you shouldn't give two shits to what anybody thinks about you. Everybody's going to have their opinion, good or bad. Me, I couldn't give a fuck. My thing is, if you can't say it directly to me, it definitely don't mean shit anyway. That's a whole nother story. But long story short, you should never ever let anything discourage you or take you off your path. That's the whole point of selling everything that I was saying. All right. But that says, I feel like you can only go so far in groups because there's always a hierarchy set up, right? There's always circles within circles. And most of these groups have power structures. And if you're not part of those inner circles, you'll never get to those heights. And then you get to a point in a lot of these groups, and it's the same thing I felt with Masonry, with OTO, and I belonged or was part of those orders. I always felt like there was something missing and lacking. And I realized that something missing was lacking is that I needed to be free from that shit so I can explore things unrestricted. See, I didn't realize that the answer and the solution was always in front of me, but I didn't have no spiritual sovereignty or freedom. And that's what happens when you get people who become so involved and loyal to these groups and they serve them like slaves. You don't see it. It's a good statement. Mama Matthias says the whole melanin thing I'm not so sure about. Dark skinned people are the originals for sure. I'm a Polynesian myself, not that dark. But I feel I can go as far as any darker skinned person as well. 100%. Look, I always look at this analogy. As you guys know, I play drums. I've been playing drums for years. I played in many different circles. I played with some amazing drummers that were twice better than me. I played with some, mediocre drummers. I played with motherfuckers that can't drum. And there's this one thing that there is this illusion that all black folks have rhythm. That's not true. Okay. And that maybe Latinos or other ethnicities, whites, don't have any rhythm. I find that not true. Okay. Now, is it predominantly more than one side? Yes, of course. We know that. But what I'm trying to say is I've sat down in many circles. I mean, I've watched this has probably happened several times where you're playing in a drum circle, got the drums banging, there's some random dude that wants to join in. I've watched some of these dudes playing the drums like it's like a hip hop beat or like hitting it like with no clue, and started to see that they had not an ounce of rhythm in their body, right? And rhythm is very critical when it comes to playing the drums. But also I'm bringing that up because I'm using this because when you're using that race card and you sit there and say, it's not a true statement. Not all black folks got rhythm. I've seen it. I've watched them sit down and try to play the drums sometimes, and it's terrible. And then I watch the Latino sit down, or a white dude or a white woman, and get on the drums and able, to play better, right? And I'm not saying that's neither here nor there, right? Right? It shouldn't even be an issue. But I'm saying when it comes up, you can play both sides of that card, right? To me, it's pointless. It's a waste of fucking time. I really couldn't give two shits. But you're gonna have people that use it, unfortunately. All right. So yeah, it's just your attitude and your approach and understanding. Jonathan G says, "Are you Prince? Not Prince Hall. And I don't know what you mean by Grand Lodge Estate. We're in the state of Florida. I don't know what you mean by that statement there. But no, not Prince Hall. F and AM. Okay. Yeah, 33rd. Well, here's the thing with 33rd. See, you can't just, if you go through the Scottish Rite, you become a 32nd degree Mason, 32nd degree Mason. That's where it stops. And that's why they say you become frozen, right? You can only be invited to become a 33rd degree Mason. You can't apply to the degree and voluntarily take it. You're only invited to the 33rd. So you will find those that are 33rd degree, yeah, they're going to be very secretive. Yeah, they're not gonna tell you much, and it depends on who you're talking to too, right? All right, what else we got? Yeah, you make that decision yourself, Devin. Let your intuition guide you. Well, I think I was just talking about that. When you're weighing in, it's not just about color. When you're talking about melanin, it's not just about the neuromelanin, the outer pigmentation, right? It's about the neuromelanin, which encodes every organ and every aspect of your body, your central nervous system, your lungs, your kidneys, your liver, your spleen, your brain, right? It's the vital essence or life form to everything in existence that connects to consciousness and spirituality. I would recommend everybody, if you haven't, again, go read Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum's book, Dark Light Consciousness, right? He breaks it down in there. He breaks down the difference between color. He breaks down the difference in reference to pigmentation, ethnicity, between outer melanin, neuromelanin, and inner melanin, neuromelanin. So when we're saying melanin or anybody brings melanin up, you must have them be clear. What are you talking about? Neuro and neuromelanin. Now here's the deep thing. Okay. Contrary to belief, how some people are so uneducated on this. And I'll quote some information that Dr. Jewel Pookrum broke down. I interviewed her a few years back, had her on the old radio show. Actually, I had her on 2 or 3 times, at least 2. It might have been 3 times. And she was breaking down a couple of things in regards to melanin, right? First of all, there's a myth or a mythology that if you're dark skinned and have a lot of external melanin, that it's bad for you to be in the sun, that the sun attacks you more and it's harder. Some people can't take the heat of the sun when they are have a lot of external melanin or darker. It's the complete opposite. What happens is a darker skinned person burns more melanin than a fair skinned person. So let me explain. And then again, this is her explaining this. Because what happens is when you're a darker skinned person, you need more sun to charge you up because you burn off so much of it so quick. And because of the dark melanin, it absorbs so much of it. So contrary to belief, one thing that used to bug me out when I moved down here to South Florida from New York, it always bugged me out how Black folks would walk around with umbrellas and hated the sun because they couldn't deal with the heat or the intensity of it. Well, what causes that? Most people who are dark skinned and the sun, or not, and a lot of people, when you have a poor diet, it's even worse. So if you're eating a lot of pork and a lot of red meat and a lot of processed foods, you're damaging your external melanin, especially if you're a darker skinned person, because what tends to happen is this is why you'll see some people feel like they can get real sick or they get weak, feel like they're going to pass out, because a lot of those artificial things are damaging or can damage your melanin. And this is why it's not recommended ever really to go out in the heat after eating a very heavy meal, right? Because you can have those after effects. So a darker skinned person needs a lot more sun to keep their melanin recharged. And the melanin is activated. Now, when you look at the neuro and the neuromelanin, your highest states of melanin are activated in the nocturnal hours, not in the daytime. Okay. So you'll find out, why do you think magicians, the highest point of the time for them to practice is midnight to dawn? That's when your melanin is most active, contrary to belief. It's recharging itself in the daylight hours via, and the sun has something to do with that too, right? And this is why they even have a sleeping supplement called melatonin to help activate those levels, in your body, right? Now, a fairer skinned person only needs smaller amounts of sun to charge their melanin, obviously, because they don't absorb or burn as much. That's why they're more fairer skinned. So it's the reverse. See, they're told, oh, you're pale, you should get some more sunlight. And it's vice versa. The darker skinned person burns off a lot of melanin quicker and needs to absorb a lot more, intake a lot more to keep themselves recharged. This is why you'll find, and it bugged me out, you'll see in certain places, you'll find that there's very darker skinned people that really just can't take the sun, period. Right? So when you look at the melanin thing more from a scientific perspective, yes, you can get into the whole history and who was here first and all. And ain't nobody denying that. Nobody's not. We all know civilization started in Africa, right? I mean, you'd be a fool to dispute that. We're not. See, people get caught up in all that stuff. But here's the reality. Having said all that, here's the reality. At the end of the fucking day, I don't care what a motherfucker is saying. I'm looking at the results that you're producing. You could be talking all this and that, saying this and claiming you got this knowledge and that, but then you're unsuccessful and you're living like a bum. That's comical to me, right? So at the end of the day, it's about what results are you manifesting to master your life. You can sit around and throw that argument around for shits and giggles, but who cares? At the end of the day, it is what it is. People don't understand what riding the goat is in the Masonic Lodge, right? I'm not going to get into that here, but there's so many spooky stories that circulate about going through Masonic degrees / rituals, right? And I can tell you this: look, I know we got people out there that read the Dunkin' Donuts, I call it the Dunkin's Ritual Monitor, and think they know everything about masonry. Trust me when I tell you, I don't care what book you pick up on masonry. Outside of giving you the general idea of what takes place in the degrees, don't be deceived, because them books are not telling you really anything that goes on inside the degrees. Okay, so it's very misleading. Oh yeah, I mean, there's no denial that when you look through history, whether it's the Arabs in Africa colonizing Africa via using Islam and religion, whether you get into the whole story of slavery and how this country was colonized, and really nobody here is really by nationality a Native American, because the reality is all these people. If we made a statement, said everybody go back to where they came from, there wouldn't be much people left here. Even a lot of the people, even a lot of Europeans that call themselves Americans, this isn't their country either, right? I mean, we know all this, right? But really, that could be said when you go to a lot of places, right? All right, name me one country, and I always tell people this. Name me one country that wasn't built on war, destruction, and death and colonization. Name me one. Okay? Every country that became powerful and wealthy and strong had to obtain it through war and all those things. that we talk about. I don't care who it is. Okay? Because these countries didn't become great without going through those things. So again, it's your perspective and and how you see things. Excuse me. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I use that Logan Scott as an example. I've seen that so many times over the years in drum. I've had motherfuckers come up. I swear, it's a true story. I've had we do a lot of drummings out on the beach when when we get a chance. We like to do drummings out on the beach. And over the years, whether it's in New York or here in Florida or wherever, I mean, I've done big drum sessions out on the beach in Providence, Rhode Island, in Boston, New York, different areas here in South Florida. And how many times a motherfucker came over, yeah, man, tell me, yeah, man, I can hit the drum. Yeah, man, you mind if I play? Man, I see the motherfucker sit down and I'm like, holy shit, it's awful. So it's real, right? It's real. You'll see when it comes in regards to all of these things, you've got to see where do you stand in the scheme of those things. It's yeah, I do believe everybody here is for a reason. Yeah, we're getting ready. Actually, we're getting ready to. We were just talking about setting up another drumming session on the beach. It's crazy that we're talking about this now. Oh, Shamsun, that's shit. I'm on my 12th temple degree. I just actually the new ones just came in because they come every first of the month. I didn't even look at the last one. Hold on, I can tell you right now. I can tell you exactly what degree because you get them every first of the month. My new ones just came through. But hold on, pull it up right now. And I'm probably so behind on the 12th degree ones because I just haven't had time. I can tell you right now. Actually, I could do better than that. All right, so I'm on my 12th temple degree, number 10, cycle 137, and I haven't even touched any of them. So yeah, temple 12th degree, number 10, and it continues as you know. But I probably haven't touched the last, as I'm looking at it, shit. I probably haven't touched the last 4 or 5 cycles. That's how behind I am. But yeah, I've been a Rosicrucian since 2012. Yeah, it's been a journey. It takes shit just to get to the initiation aspect takes you a few years, and then navigating through the temple degrees that's a long time. Um, Again, I'm active still in all these my memberships. I don't go like I used to years ago. I might visit once or twice a year. That's it, just to see people that I know. But that's it. Uh, Now Matthias, it's basically we just go out there with drums. It's more I would classify it African drumming. Even some Northeast rhythms, like we'll bring the Egyptian djembe out there, which I love that sound, like that belly dance sound drum. We'll play like Northeast African rhythms, but most of it's rooted in African drums and spirituality, and most of the instruments will take out there or reflect that. So it's not really a genre of music, but yeah. Yeah, I went to some Anya studios. So they went to Europe in the 80s. They came back to Australia looking Somalian. Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, that's an illusion. Don't think because you're dark skinned you're protected from the heat and the sun. If that neuromelanin is damaged, see, that's what I'm trying to say. If that neuromelanin is not correctly coating those kidneys, the liver, the organ, the heart, the lung, a lot of shit can go wrong. And yes, don't be surprised if you see a very dark skinned person have issues with the heat and the sun. That's another myth. Oh, this person's dark skinned, the sun's not going to bother them. No, if that neuromelanin ain't right, if that diet is poor, and there's a whole other host of elements that are a recipe for disaster. Yeah, you could see a very dark skinned melanated person pass out from the heat, like worse than a white person who can't take the sun. So again, I think it's about perspective and your understanding when it comes to these things, right? But yes, not a surprise. That definitely can happen. It says, hold on. Yeah, if you get into the planet thing, shout out to our brother Montu Mercury. Yeah, if you get into the planet thing, this is one of many planets. Yeah. Now, your perspective on that. I mean, it's a touchy subject. You have to be careful because, obviously, we'd have to be a fool to think we're the only intelligent life forms that exist in the multiverses, right? Um, so, yeah, when you look at the history of our planet, I mean, that's a whole nother class. So, I mean, I've talked about this and over the years. Um, yeah, I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, and depending on how you look at your existence and our life here and how we got here, when you make a statement like that, yeah, I mean, we'd have to be a fool to think one that we are the only intelligent life form that exists. That would be foolishness. Okay. Now, with Dasman, I'm not sure when you say that's a term. When you say merge with the source, right? I'm not sure if you're coming from your perspective of what that source is, right? I think when you look at what we do, right, we work with different spiritual energies. So in that sense, it's all part. It's all part of quote unquote what you would be describing the source. But I think what the magician's goal is taking the energy from them from the source and knowing how to work with those different energies that manifest, right? Knowing the when, the where, the how, and the why, right? Because one thing that I always teach people is, first of all, I don't believe that when we talk about something being good or bad or positive or negative, that's just varying vibrational degrees of the same thing. And that's why if you understand the Hermetic principles, it breaks that down. So I don't look at the good or bad thing, right? A magician realizes that all energy is productive, regardless of what others may clarify it as. So in that sense, that it all has root where the sources of all those energies are connected. Yeah, I mean that goal is to be able to tap into the energy of those sources or source. Okay. Yeah, and see that's the thing too. Like with Devin's comment, right? In order to understand this, what people say, like all things are connected. And I talk about this all the time. Right? Say all things are connected. We are all part of the one. Yes and no. Because the question I always ask people, if they say they're all connected and we're all one, how do you know you're connected? You say, well, what do you mean? How do you know you're connected? How can you see and confirm the connectedness? The only way you can. And this is where there's a very big separation between our spiritual path and others when we talk about the isolated consciousness. The only way you could see the connectedness, now get this, it's going to sound crazy because people ain't going to be able to catch it sometimes, is you must separate from the togetherness in order to see the connectedness. Okay. And one of our main goals on this path is to achieve what we call the isolated consciousness. Because once you separate yourself from everything, but yet you still, even regardless, even if you connect to that, what they call that collective consciousness, right? You still always maintain your individuality to a degree. And that's your uniqueness, right? So the whole thing with Set and the isolated consciousness of Set is to show you that in order to see that connected, you have to disconnect from it. And you have to have an understanding that if you understand, if it's like, if everything, if you're not looking at something, if you're in the box, right? How do you not understand the connectedness? You can't until you come out, like they use that saying, look at things from outside the box, right? Or if there's a certain situation, form a neutral opinion. They think outside the box, right? Well, one of our goals and what we strive to do on this path is to think outside the box. Okay? We must think outside the box because then you'll understand what this connectedness is all about. So yes, the goal isn't really to merge in the source in regards to how these mainstream systems teach it. That's not how we teach it because again, if all things are connected, how can you confirm that if you're part of the connection, right? Unless you step outside the box and you're able to view that and see that. So our goal, one, it's going to sound, again, it sounds crazy, to separate to see the connectedness. Because when you're a conformist, again, when you have a conformist mentality or somebody's trying to sell you a conformist ideology, there's just no way you'll ever be able to, see that, right? So yes, that's kind of both sides of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Both sides of the spectrum. Mark Allen Smith, dealing, a lot of intense information on Hecate. It's not probably everybody's quote unquote cup of tea. Well, I know just so people know, I don't talk about it a lot. I know Asenath Mason well. I'm actually a high priest in the Temple of Ascendant Flame. That's one of my main paths. So yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I'm actually going to be, I mentioned to you guys, I think the last show, her new book is getting ready to come out. I'm going to review it here on YouTube. She has asked me to review it, if I wouldn't mind reviewing it here on YouTube. So very familiar with Lucifer's Gate and the Primal Craft. Familiar with Mark Allen Smith's work, but that's not really for everybody. I'll be honest with you. If you're not familiar, with him, you might want to research. But yeah. All right, brother Taj, I will. Yeah, yeah. All right. I don't know if there's any other questions. I don't really see any. Yeah, I actually, I do some work, even on the Temple Forum board, some projects and stuff. Um, so I'm involved with them. Yeah, the draconian path. That's not some shit. You can't do that shit part time. I consider that that's pretty much my focus because the draconian path gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. So I don't really have time to be tied down to any groups, organizations. Because again, the beauty with the temple is it doesn't stop you from doing whatever it is you do. There's no obligation and there's no requirements and restrictions and rules. Well, even prior to that, like I said, I was in the temple of Set for several years. You guys saw the video I did a couple of years ago why I left. Because the motherfuckers was trying to tell me what I could and could not do. And I basically told them, go fuck themselves. This is not how I operate. And I found there's a lot of politics in them groups. And Temple has said, same thing. Once you start voicing your own opinion, there's a problem. And like I said, I went into that several years back, humbled in a motherfucker. I ain't going there like announcing to everybody what I knew. I went in there as a student wanting to learn. But when I saw all the politics and the egos and the nonsense, and I realized these motherfuckers don't really know shit. I know more than they know. They don't really know shit. They think they do. I just saw it was more about ego than it was about really learning something. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great material in the Temple of Set. I printed a lot of my stuff before I got kicked out and didn't have access to the boards. So don't get me wrong. But I always had my issue where I clashed heads with them was two things. One, they had a problem with this YouTube channel, and I told them to go fuck themselves pretty much. And two, I would have some differences of opinion with, the founder of the Temple of Set, Michael Aquino. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of information that Michael Aquino put out that I like, but one thing that it went sour, which I mentioned in the video, how he explained how he received the Coming Forth by Night book. It sounded eerie, similar to me of Crowley's experience with Alawas in the temples in Egypt. And I'm just like, I don't know, that sounds crazy to me. Both of the experiences both of them sounded very similar. And my thing was, okay, you have a guy like Michael Aquino that was Anton LaVey's right-hand man in the Church of Satan. And then obviously, when you read the story, Aquino kind of got upset in the later stages in the 70s before he left. He felt like Aquino was just kind of, giving the degrees out, and it was becoming more of a money and a gimmick thing. And, when entertainers like Sammy Davis Jr. were coming in and other entertainers, so he had his differences. He didn't like what was going on in the Church of Satan. And then all of a sudden he has this vision where Set, the Prince of Darkness, appears to him in the form of Set, gives him the Coming Forth by Night, and tells him to start the Temple of Set. Now, my problem with that was, I'm not saying that I literally used to get into them arguments about this with them. I'm not saying that Michael Aquino didn't have some type of experience. I don't doubt that. What I am saying is I can't fully co-sign on it because I didn't have that same experience. So my thing is, and this is the way to argue, what if I woke up tomorrow and say the Prince of Darkness came to me in some form and told everybody, leave the Temple of Set and join this temple or this organization? Do you see, that was my problem with that. When are we going to navigate away from the follower bullshit? Why do all these groups and organizations have some charismatic leader placed subliminally in this Jesus Messiah role? And I spoke out on it and they didn't like it. I'm like, I'm not really feeling that. And I can tell you this, from being in the temple for several years, there was a lot of that. They worshiped this dude, man. They looked at this dude as some and he's passed away. If you didn't know, he died a couple of years ago. He was very sick. But my thing was they looked at him as like some godlike figure. And I don't fucking roll with that. That's just not me. The only God that I look at in that light is myself. I know there's other gods out there, but I will acknowledge the divinity or the God in somebody or the goddess, but I ain't going to worship the motherfuckers. Just like I don't expect anything or anybody to worship me, because then you surrender your divinity. They didn't comprehend that. They get all up in their feelings when you used to talk about if you had a difference of opinion about Michael Aquino. And I'm just like, yo, look, you know, just like I do, he pulls his pants down and shits the same way I do. So I don't buy that. And then it was that coupled with apparently I had said something about using blood in rituals, and they don't condone that. And I'm like, man, get the fuck out of here with that shit. You know, just stupidity shit, right? It's the problem is when, long story short, when you get into these groups and organizations and there's a hierarchy, and then, you know, there's priest this, and there's magister this, there's, you know, guru there, whatever it is, it goes to people's fucking head, man. Okay? It goes to people's head. Look, for an example, as a Rosicrucian, I served as master for 3 terms. I never let that shit go to my head. I treated everybody the same fucking way. I never talked down to nobody. I never looked at anybody lesser. And even if I knew I might have been on a higher level or knew more than a person, I never treated them any different. See, that's how you grow spiritually. These motherfuckers claim that shit. But when you get inside of these groups and organizations, there's politics, there's haters. This one's trying to backbite this one. This one's trying to backstab this one and jump over this one. Look, I'm at the point where I'm too old for that shit. Because I won't hesitate to tell a motherfucker, go fuck yourself, kiss my ass. I just ain't got the time for it. You know, I'm not about, I couldn't care what you like and you don't like. That shit is 100% irrelevant to me. I don't care what you like. That's some personal shit. Get over it. And it's just as easy like here. This is why I don't entertain bullshit. Like, you know how many times people will ask me, oh, why don't you, how come you don't keep the comments on for your video? Because I'm not going to give people the pleasure, not just of starting bullshit with me, but starting bullshit in the comment section with other people. Because that's not what the goal is. The goal is here is just get information out. That's what I do. You don't have to agree with it. One, I couldn't care. I ain't losing no sleep over it. I don't care. My job is to put information out there. I'd be a fool to think everybody agrees with everything I say. I know that 100%. But my job is to put it out there. You take it and do with it as you please. But if I can spark you and get you to think, then my job is done. Whether you agree with it or not, the shit is irrelevant. Okay? That's how it is, man. That's just how it is. But that's, you know, I've had these experiences with all these groups. You know, I mean, even the masonry thing, you know, they set in their ways. You know, it's the hierarchy, the politics, and the structure that's in place in a lot of these groups. That's where you run into the brick wall and the problems, right? Because some of them don't want change. You know, some of them like shit the way it is. You know, and I've also learned when it's not your thing and you don't have ownership of it, you either deal with it or you move on. That's it. I just never understood, like, somebody will come on somebody's platform or YouTube channel complaining, bitching, talking shit. Then why the fuck are you here? Just go somewhere else. That's it. It's that simple. Just go somewhere else. Problem solved. Okay. Where did I leave off here? Okay, right there. Yeah, malas and affirmations, it's another way and a positive way to reprogram your subconscious mind through repetition. You know, especially affirmations, right? Mantras is another good tool for that. Yeah, all these things they serve their purposes. Just got to know how to use them. Matthias says, is there a divine masculine? The Primal Crab only talks about Hecate and the Temple of Ascending Flame. It's the same thing, but it's not. But you got to understand, Mark Allen Smith, his work is focused on Hecate and the divine feminine. So when you're talking about him in reference to that, there is a divine masculine, right? But it's not really addressed through his teachings. he explains his calling, his connection, and like I say, he works. If you're familiar with his work, not you asking, other people watching, um, yeah, it's not for everybody. I can tell you that. Yeah. Now, like I said, when Michael Aquino, and here was the other thing that I remember in a group meeting where some of his work came up. Now you got to understand Michael Aquino's background. He was a high-ranking member of the military. He was high up in the level of the department of the military that did interrogation, right? So psychologically and psychology, that was his field. That's what and he was good at it. Like Mindstar. Mindstar is not an easy read. Okay. Uh, I've done some excerpts in classes over a couple of times over the years here on YouTube. But Mindstar is a very complex read if you haven't read Mindstar. And you could tell he has that background in psychology and interrogation. You could see it, and you could see why he was so very effective. The problem that I had sometimes with his style of writing was he made things too complicated. He used these big words. To me, this just was my opinion. Because see, this is the thing that rubs me the wrong way. Don't say you're a group or an organization where you can speak freely, have an open discussion, and we in a setting where it's supposed to be an open discussion and feel free to speak your mind. But as soon as I say something you don't like, you get all up in your motherfucking feelings. See, that was the problem. So I'm in one of these open settings, and that was my opinion. We were going around the book talking, and I forgot Mindstar, and I think the revised version that he did a few years back of the Satanic Bible came out, which is a very good book too, by the way. Well, anyway, I had expressed in that conversation, that group get together, I think sometimes he uses too many big unnecessary words, and he makes it sound more complex and deeper than it is. That was it. Just we were going around the room asking for feedback, opinion. These motherfuckers got all up in their feelings. Oh man, how could you do? You asked for my opinion. I've found that. And I've read a lot of Aquino's books. I've found that he could overkill it with these big words. Where I'm like, you could just keep this shit simple, straight to the fucking point. Oh, that shit, that shit don't work like that, man. All right, I'm going to take a few more and wrap this up. It's getting late. Yeah, well, Worshipful Master is the title used for the master that leads the Masonic Lodge. So we'll clarify. In the Rosicrucian Lodge, it's called Servant Master, not Worshipful Master, right? If you are the head of the Rosicrucian Lodge, that's your title, Servant Master, right? Which you serve the temple members, and etc. Now you hear the term worshipful master. No, nobody is worshiping the guy or the master that's leading the lodge, right? It's just a honorable title, meaning that person has obtained the highest rank in the Masonic Lodge, right? So he is shown the respect, so that's just a symbolic term. Nobody worships. If anybody says they do, get out of that lodge. Nobody bows down or worships any worshipful master in any lodge. That's not how it works. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. some of the stuff. One of my issues why I'm not really active in the Rosicrucian, my membership is, right? And I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale, so I go to the Fort Lauderdale Proneos, or I go down to the Miami Lodge, and I've been up to the Grand Lodge in Tampa, Florida. I know all of them. The issue that I have, and why I really kind of stopped going, there's still a lot of religious influence in a very filtered way is the best way I can describe it, whether it's through the members or through some of the temples or lodges. It's the only way I could describe it. And it was just a dead, stale energy to me. And when it comes to a Rosicrucian, you're going to find who are more esoterical in nature and spirit. And then you're going to find some who are like New Age Christians. I'm just going to keep it real. And don't get me wrong, there's a wealth of information in the Rosicrucian order. So by all means, there's more positives than negatives. But I didn't feel like, going back, the first 3 years, I was shit. I was at the lodge for everything. That's how I was invested. But yeah, it's just the way it is. William Thomas. No, but send me if you got a contact for him. Send it to my email. I've heard of him. Send me my email is going on the tick on the bottom. So if you got a contact link for him, my email or something to contact, I'm always open to bringing on new and interesting people. Yeah, the big shit is sometimes people like. No offense. I got respect for Dr. Phil Valentine. He's another one. Sometimes it's just too much, dude. The intricacies of the aristocratical. It's like, dude, just can you break that shit down and just basic shit? Sometimes it's just too much, and I think that's people's egos. Sometimes they think in their mind that they're going to come off to other people as more intelligent. To me, it can come off as more annoying. And that's the issue I kind of had with some of Michael, not all, with some of Michael Aquino's approach and style of writing. It was just too much for me sometimes. It's like you're using terms like, who are you trying to make feel good here? And it's not that I didn't understand it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, to me, it was just overkill. There's a such thing as overkill with many things in life. You can just beat something till it's too much. I know a couple of voodoo practitioners. I've had Bokor Rodney Coleman on here a couple of times. A couple others. Some I'm friends with on Instagram. Not so much YouTube. So yeah, a couple here and there. All right, what else we got? That's true, Devin. If you have met something right, you can simply explain it to each other. See, that's my approach. Like all that, the intricacies of the delicacies of the astronomical, phenomenal, spectacular. Stop. What the fuck is that shit? Stop. That doesn't make it any, let's just stop. It's too much. Overkill. Ain't nobody want to hear all that fucking. You know what it reminds me of? Oswald Bates. You guys know who that is? Oswald Bates. Remember the character Damon Wayans played on In Living Color? The dude in jail with the kufi on. You remember that shit? I'm going back a little bit. So if you guys from that era, you remember In Living Color. Everybody, I'm sure, knows of or has heard of In Living Color. But that's what this shit reminds me of. The character Oswald Bates that Damon Wayans played. And that was the dude that used to be in the jail cell with the kufi on. Let me instigate my fallopian tubes of the instigating of the astronaut, that shit, that it's like, it's too much, dude. Stop. You're doing too much. Just explain that shit in simple, simplistic terms, man. It's not necessary for all that big word shit sometimes. All right, what else we got? Yeah, well, you could see Aleister Crowley's information. He was fascinated with Egypt, Masonry. Um, Again, I went through not all the OTO degrees, the first four. And if you've gone through the OTO degrees, you'll see I mean, even the hand gestures, even the design of the rituals, very similar to some of the degrees in the Blue House. So yeah, he was definitely. It's obvious he was definitely influenced by Freemasonry and the Egyptian mystery. See, and it was something that when you look at it, and like I was saying earlier with Michael Aquino, go read his story of how he obtained or claims the book of the Coming Forth by Night was revealed to him, and then read the story of Crowley, how he explains how Allah was personified to him and gave him the book of the law. I just find it too coincidental. It didn't make sense to me. I'm like, I'm not sure about this, right? But yeah. No, Boko Rodney is occasionally still posting pictures. But I heard the Leonard Elmira dude got his channel shut down or suspended for a while. He was beefing with that other dude, that King Brujo dude. From what he's claiming, the dude reported him because I guess he was making videos about him, so he put some claim on him or some shit like that. Don't quote me; it's just shit that I heard. But that's why you ain't seen the Leonard dude. His channel is not up and running right now. Just from what I heard and saw. But again, don't quote me on that. I'm not saying I got all the specifics to it. Yeah, Living Color, man. That was classic, man. Man, I remember when that show had that run, man. You couldn't wait for Sundays to come. Because I remember it would be Sunday football. And then after the football games came, it was The Simpsons, right? That's come on all the same night. You'd have The Simpsons, and you'd have In Living Color, and with Married with Children, with Al Bundy. They would all come on same night. Yeah, I used to look forward to that shit, man. Yeah, Oswald Bates, man. Google this shit for the whole. We got a lot of Oswald Bates. That's gonna be our new term. Are you Oswald baiting me, brother? Yeah, unfortunately we got a lot of Oswald Bates out there, man. It's hilarious though. It is. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. That's at the end. That's enough. So hopefully, little build tonight helped again. The Cyclomancy book is available digital, free on Scribd. If you want a nice copy of it, $8.99 digital on Amazon Kindle. Or if you want to get crazy and spend tons of money for a hard copy of a few circulating out there, knock yourself out. All right, other than that, I'm going to let you people go. Again, best way to stay up on the classes, participate in the classes, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's the Primordial Chaos Patreon page. I recommend tier 3. It's $25 a month. That gives you access to all 3 classes I do every month, plus the ritual. And it gives you access to the archive. There's a wealth and abundance of information on there. Trust me, going back a few years. So you get access to the archived information, what we're doing now currently, and everything moving forward. You can sign up for the classes individually. But individually, each class is $56. So tier 3 is a no-brainer for $25 a month. And trust me, I don't say this with arrogance or ego. I could be charging a lot more and get it, but that's not my goal, right? My goal is to get this information out there, but I got to get compensated for my time because it takes time away from making money in other areas. But for the price that I'm offering, trust me, I'm confident to say I don't think there's anybody else out there offering for what I offer for $25 a month. I try to keep it priced reasonable so everybody has an opportunity to participate. But what we do on the Patreon is more private, it's more centralized. It's I know there's a couple of you in here that are on there, like Xander Promio, she can tell you. So there's a lot of things we do. It's a little more of a private setting, okay? But for what you're paying a month, I say this with confidence, not arrogance. I'm giving you a lot for that price. Between the stuff that's archived and what we got going on now, ongoing series of a bunch of classes, and then things moving forward in the future. I say that with confidence, not arrogance. For the price that I'm offering it for, trust me, it would probably cost quadruple that if you're going to get that amount of information and what we discuss. So again, I say that with confidence, not arrogance. So I encourage people to check out the Patreon page. And you know where to reach me up. If you need a reading or a consultation, everything's right there on the bottom of the screen. Hit me up. We'll talk soon. I will see some of you guys tomorrow night in the Patreon class, Clepothic Sorcery and Magic, class number 2. That will be tomorrow night. I'll see you guys there on the Patreon, all right? And we'll talk soon. Infernal blessings.